Chapter 74. Using water to control the sword heart technique scatter word formula. Lin Muyu quickly calmed the surging qi and blood caused by the excessive consumption of true energy, and said with a smile, Xiaoxi, what do you think of this move? Is it flashy enough? Tang Xiaoxi was almost petrified. After a while, she blinked her eyes and said, so powerful. These words made Lin Muyu's confidence almost explode. She said with a smile, of course. What should I call this move? Tang Xiaoxi said, I've seen experts of the imperial sword technique use the innumerable sword formula. It's similar, but this move of yours uses the law of water. Why don't we call it innumerable sword absolute ice? Good name. Anything else? Tang Xiaoxi asked weakly. There's still one last move, and it's also the move with the most explosive power. Show it to me. All right. Lin Muyu muttered to himself. Immediately, the burning prairie sword flew up with a swoosh and stood vertically in front of him. He opened his palms and wisps of true dragon primary fire condensed between his fingers, slowly transforming into a flaming chain between his palms and the blade of the sword. After activating the rotational force, the burning prairie sword slowly rotated on its axis, while the wisps of true dragon primary fire in his palms spiraled around the blade of the sword like a long dragon. With a dragon's roar, Lin Muyu shouted, Go! Whoosh! The long sword whistled through the air, carrying with it a vast spiral of fire. The heat spewed out, and the pond water to the side sizzled. Lin Muyu's target was a huge rock with a diameter of at least 5 meters, and it was an extremely hard black rock. Pung! Amidst the loud noise, rocks flew everywhere. Lin Muyu opened his hand, and the wall of the gourd came out of his body, protecting him and Tang Xiaoxi. The impact of this blow swept through the entire courtyard, and the guards outside couldn't help but knock on the door. Princess, there's such a big commotion inside, are you all right? I'm fine, don't come in. Tang Xiaoxi said loudly. Yes, princess. Controlling the sword with fire. Lin Muyu calmed herself down and said faintly, Flame is the source of power. Together with the piercing effect of the whirlwind, this strike's penetrative power and power are the strongest among all of my moves. Its weakness is the same as Gale Break, the charging time is too long. It's said that the speed at which battle energy is condensed is faster. Maybe when I step into the heaven realm and understand battle energy, I can improve this move. Xiaoxi, what do you think of this move? What's a good name? Tang Xiaoxi became even more restless. Her face was roasted red by the flames as she said, I vaguely heard the roar of a dragon just now. Moo, why is there dragon force in this move of yours? Is it a move cultivated from the true dragon bone I gave you last time? Yeah, Xiaoxi is so smart. So that's how it is. Let's call it Dragon Flame Spiral Break. This style looks really good. Lin Muyu stood proudly in the courtyard. The sword elder had taught him the heart of the sword and controlling the sword with heart, so he could be considered as his sword art's first teacher. However, the 4 elemental sword control law that he had comprehended in the past few days had surpassed his teacher. Perhaps it could be said that he already had the demeanor of a transcendent master. Tang Xiaoxi, on the other hand, was sullen. What's wrong, Xiaoxi? He asked with concern. Tang Xiaoxi raised her head and looked at him with a pair of starry eyes. She said, when we were in Cathaya City, you were still so weak and needed my protection. But after we came to Lanyan City, Mu has completely surpassed me. My realm is already far inferior to yours, it's okay, I can protect you in the future. He smiled brightly. Tang Xiaoxi's heart warmed and she nodded happily. However, she couldn't show it too obviously, so she pouted and said, Mu, are you about to step into the heaven realm? My current cultivation is Battle Saint, just one step away, but I still can't break through. Lin Muyu shook her head and said, I probably need another opportunity. I plan to find a day to cultivate in the dragon-seeking forest. If I meet a suitable spirit beast, it can help me break through and step into the heaven realm. Yes, I want to go with you. Also, you must remember our promise. The Xianxia festival will be held 3 days later. This is the invitation, you must come. Okay. After sending off Tang Xiaoxi, Lin Muyu secretly let out a sigh of relief. Xiaoxi was approachable, smart, and cute. She was definitely a very good girl, but his status was too different from hers. Moreover, he was currently a wanted criminal. He had a deep feeling that she was out of his league. He didn't want to be a gigolo. Even if he had any status in this world, he had to rely on his own fists to make a name for himself. He didn't want to think about anything else and obediently went to forge a new sword. This could be considered as his tuition fee for the Sword Elder, right? After all, the Sword Elder was a businessman. He definitely wouldn't lose out on this point. At night, the stars shone brightly. The Imperial Army camp was brightly lit. The cavalry galloped in front of the Central Army tent. The 10 Kiliarchs on duty at night had already led their subordinates to patrol the capital. In the central tent, Feng Jixing was holding an oil lamp and holding a bamboo scroll in his hand. On the bottom of the scroll, there were 4 big words, 7 scrolls of victorious tactics. This was the military strategy passed down from generation to generation by the founding hero of the Great Qin Empire, Xiang Wentian, who was known as the God of War. Every general of the empire would study the 7 scrolls of victorious tactics, but it was unknown how many people could truly comprehend the profound meaning within. Rustle, the curtain was lifted and a captaincy cupped his fists and said, "Lord Commander, the people from the military police battalion have arrived." Military police battalion? Feng Jixing raised his head and looked. The light from the oil lamp flickered slightly, illuminating his handsome face. What are the people from the military police battalion doing at the Forbidden Army? Who led them? It's the commander of the military police battalion, Xiangyu. Xiangyu? Feng Jixing frowned and stood up. He brushed his battle robe and said, "Follow me to welcome them." Yes. Outside the tent, Xiangyu walked over with dozens of military police battalion generals. From afar, he cupped his fists and said with a smile, "Brother Feng, long time no see. You are still as handsome as ever." Feng Jixing smiled and cupped his fists and said, "Subordinate Feng Jixing greets Lord Xiangyu." Xiangyu smiled and said, "You and I are both commanders of the empire. There is no need to be so formal." Even so, Feng Jixing still gave a military salute. Although the total number of military police battalion was only 2,000 people, they had the most power in the Imperial Army. Even he, the commander of the 30,000 Imperial Army, had to be respectful to Xiangyu. "I wonder what important matter Lord Xiangyu has come to the Imperial Army camp this time?" Feng Jixing asked. Xiangyu laughed and said, "It's a small matter. Let's talk inside the tent." Yes. After entering the Imperial Army tent, Xiangyu sat down on the commander's seat without a trace of politeness. The high-ranking Imperial Army generals immediately glared at him. Luo Lai had already placed his palm on the hilt of his sword, but Feng Jixing stopped him with a stern look. Xiangyu naturally had his reasons for being so arrogant. He had the right to be so. Pressing his hand on the table, Xiangyu looked at the 7 victorious scrolls next to the oil lamp and couldn't help but laugh. "General Feng is studying the military books passed down by our ancestors?" "Yes." Feng Jixing smiled respectfully and said, "I can only study 1 or 2 of them. This general is slow-witted and cannot completely understand the essence of the war god. General Feng is too modest." Xiangyu smiled coldly and said, "General Feng should have heard of the murder of Cathaya City's Huatian, right?" "Yes." "The murderer, Lin Muyu, is said to have infiltrated Lanyan City." "Oh. What do you mean, my lord?" Xiangyu waved his hand lightly and said with a smile, "Our military police camp is short on manpower and cannot search the entire city for Lin Muyu. That is why we have come to the Imperial Army camp to ask General Feng to act on our behalf. The Imperial Army of 30,000 is enough to turn the Imperial capital upside down to capture Lin Muyu." Feng Jixing's heart trembled. He cupped his hands and said, "My lord, please forgive this general for being powerless." "Why?" Lanyan City is the imperial capital, the city of true dragons. If we wish to search the entire city for Lin Muyu, we must have His Majesty's handwritten decree. Otherwise, this general cannot comply. The imperial army's mission is to protect the imperial city, not to capture felons. Feng Jixing said it straightforwardly, without the slightest intention of giving in. Xiangyu slowly rose to his feet and looked at him coldly. General Feng has reminded me that I must go to Zhe Tian Temple to have an audience with His Majesty first before I can search for the criminal. Feng Jixing smiled faintly. Yes, my lord, you have come in vain. Xiangyu's expression was cold. He walked down from the commander's seat and stepped on the dark blue carpet of the central army tent. He looked at Feng Jixing with a cold gaze and said with a smile, "How can I come in vain? I heard that General Feng has studied ancestor Xiang Wentian's wind saber technique for many years and is known as the strongest master of wind saber technique in the empire. I happen to be free today. Can you enlighten me?" Feng Jixing was stunned. "This general dares not fight with you, my lord." "It's okay. It's just a sparring session." Xiangyu raised his hand and pulled out a saber from his subordinate's waist. He said with a smile, "Xiangyu is not good at using a saber and is not qualified to use one. Is it okay for me to borrow this subordinate saber, General Feng?" Feng Jixing's heart trembled. He took the saber from his subordinate and cupped his hands and said, "My lord, we won't overdo it." "Okay." Slowly spreading his battle chi, Xiangyu's battle robe fluttered behind him and the light on the saber sword. He was a powerhouse who had stepped into the second layer of Heaven Realm. Naturally, his aura was much stronger than Feng Jixing, a first-layer Heaven Realm powerhouse. With a slight tremble of the saber, he had already launched an attack. The blade cut through the air fiercely. After 5 consecutive slashes, the flames all over his body soared. The first-grade martial soul, Trampling Fire Tiger, was released. This was the legendary martial soul that Xiang Wentian once possessed, mighty battle chi. Dang dang dang, sparks splashed. Feng Jixing blocked several times in a row and lowered his feet to sweep out. Xiangyu leaped up to avoid this attack. In the air, the sharp claws of the Trampling Fire Tiger fused with the saber, and a powerful and heavy saber slashed toward Feng Jixing's neck. Feng Jixing's movement technique was excellent. As soon as the saber hilt touched the ground, he used the force to slide half a meter and soared into the sky with his battle boots covered in battle chi. Bang! With a heavy blow, Xiangyu's fist landed on Feng Jixing's battle boots. Battle chi surged and the wind formed a shock wave, causing the surrounding generals to retreat several steps. Feng Jixing looked up at the sky, purple battle chi all over his body. His second-grade martial soul, Purple Electric Flame Wolf, had already been released, and his eyes were filled with an unyielding fighting spirit. Again. Xiangyu stayed in the air for a few seconds, then suddenly waved his long saber and slashed down again, using the same windwalking saber technique. Dang dang dang, another series of collisions occurred. Feng Jixing was forced to retreat again and again. Suddenly, a cold light was pressed against his neck. Behind him was a pillar of the tent, and there was no way to retreat. The saber in Xiangyu's hand was pressed straight against Feng Jixing's neck, his face brimming with a smile. It seems that General Feng's windwalking saber technique has not been cultivated to perfection. With that said, he withdrew his saber and said, "Since the Imperial Guard is unwilling to move out to search for Lin Muyu, then it's a good thing the military police battalion came." Watching Xiangyu's receding figure, Feng Jixing let out a long sigh of relief. At the side, Luo Lai said, "Commander, with your saber cultivation, you shouldn't have been subdued by Xiangyu's clumsy move just now." Feng Jixing's expression was complicated. He slowly shook his head and said, "A loss is a loss, there's no need to say anything more. Xiangyu, he's someone we can't afford to offend. Even Xiangyu has begun to interfere in this matter. Yu is becoming more and more dangerous. Immediately send Yu's letter to Silver Fir City and have the people there search for evidence faster. Otherwise, we won't be able to prove Yu's innocence." "Yes." Chapter 75. 3 days passed by in the blink of an eye. The banquet was held at night, so Lin Muyu did not go there early. Instead, he cultivated the imperial sword technique in the courtyard of his residence in the sacred hall. The flames in the prairie fire sword were faintly discernible. The body of the sword was suspended in the air, controlled by an invisible force. Lin Muyu stood a few meters in front of the long sword. She closed her eyes and slowly opened her right palm to sense the lightning elemental energy in the air. The tiny and violent lightning elemental energy gathered into strands of purple lightning energy that swam between her fingers like a group of naughty children. Lin Muyu could not help but laugh at the sight of it. His compatibility with the laws of lightning was becoming more and more perfect. Among the 4 types of imperial sword technique, he seemed to be the most adept at using lightning. Very few people could withstand a lightning strike. However, he had never displayed the power of the imperial sword technique and the true dragon essence fire in the sacred hall. Just like what Lei Hong had said, in this world, one must learn to hide one's edge. Otherwise, the tallest tree in the forest would be destroyed by the wind. As his cultivation increased, the defensive power of the martial soul gourd alone was enough for him to look down on everyone in the sacred hall. He could even fight against a gold star instructor like Ouyang Qiu without being at a disadvantage. It was also because of his existence that the status of the sacred hall's sparring partners had risen a lot. It could be seen from the attitude of the servants and guards towards the sparring partners. After all, the position of the sparring partners in the sacred hall was punching bags. However, the appearance of Lin Muyu covered this punching bag with a layer of armor and thorns. His appearance made the group of instructors no longer look down on the sparring partners. The group of instructors led by Zhang Wei had even treated the gold star sparring partner Lin Muyu as a good teacher and helpful friend. Knock knock, there was a knock on the door. A servant said respectfully, "Lord Lin Ji, it's time. According to Princess Xi's instructions, it's time for you to set off for the Tingyu Tower. The coachman has already prepared a fine horse for you." "Thank you." Lin Muyu opened his eyes. The divine light in his eyes disappeared, and a smile appeared on his handsome face. He looked harmless, as if he had returned to the playful and scolding kid. Carrying the burning prairie sword on his back, he went out. As expected, there were more than 100 fine horses in the riding training grounds of the holy sanctum. Usually, they were only provided to instructors and sparring masters to practice riding skills. Today, due to his relationship with Tang Xiaoxi, there was actually a horse for him to use. Immediately, Lin Muyu felt as if he had soared through the ranks and was using the public transport. He mounted the horse and performed an imperial military salute to the coachman, smiling respectfully. "Thank you, I'll be back on time to send the horse back." "Please don't worry." The coachman was flattered and hurriedly said, "What are you talking about, sir? Please feel free to use them. Deacon Guyang has instructed that all Gold Star instructors and Gold Star sparring masters can choose their favorite warhorses from the stable. You don't have to be so polite." "Yes, thank you very much." Lin Muyu smiled and slowly spurred the horse forward. The coachman stood there in a daze. He could not imagine that a Gold Star sparring master from the holy sanctum would treat him so respectfully. After all, the disparity in their statuses was too great. However, Lin Muyu was already used to it. He came from a good family, the son of Long Xian Group's CEO cum chairman, Lin Shun. It could be said that he grew up with a golden spoon in his mouth. Lin Shun was a gentle and docile person, so Lin Muyu grew up to be a humble person. In the eyes of others, he was a second-generation rich kid, but those who really interacted with him knew that he had a good upbringing and was humble. Even when he was facing a waiter, he was still very respectful. There was an old saying that a person's upbringing depended on his attitude towards the waiter. This saying seemed to be reflected in Lin Muyu. However, the coachman was someone from another world. Since he was young, he had been influenced by the concept of hierarchy. In his mind, Lin Muyu was a high and mighty Gold Star sparring master, a legendary lord. Lin Muyu's humility would only make the coachman feel fear. As he passed by the side hall, someone called out to him, "Lin Ji, don't be in such a hurry to leave. He turned around and saw Zhang Wei walking over with a white general's robe in his hands. He said, "You are a gold star sparring master from the holy sanctum. How can you wear such a shabby outfit to attend Princess Tang Xiaoxi's last Eve festival banquet? Come, the Grand Deacon asked me to give you this armor. All the gold star sparring masters of the holy sanctum wear this to meet the emperor." Oh. Lin Muyu was stunned and quickly got off the horse. She looked at the general's robe in Zhang Wei's hands. It was actually made up of silver chainmail and a white general's cloak. She looked at her own green robes and could not help but feel ashamed. After being in the holy sanctum for so long, she did not seem to pay attention to her image. "All right then, thank you, Sir Zhang Wei." "You're welcome. Quickly change." "Okay." He entered the side hall and put on the gold star sparring master's uniform. When he walked out, Zhang Wei's eyes lit up and he could not help but clap. "That's amazing. Sir Lin Ji, I, Zhang Wei, have never seen anyone who fits this general's robe better than you. If Princess Shi sees this, she will definitely look at you in a different light." Lin Muyu looked down and indeed felt that he looked exceptionally energetic and handsome after wearing this uniform. With the gold star sparring master badge pinned to his chest, it was simply perfect. "Then I'll go to the banquet. Goodbye, Sir Zhang Wei." "Go. Don't forget the helmet." This uniform actually came with a helmet. It was a silver-gray battle helmet. Lin Muyu only clipped it under his armpit. It inevitably looked a little redundant when he put it on. Furthermore, this uniform was actually the uniform that the members of the Holy Sanctum wore when they participated in battles. The armor already made him feel a little uncomfortable. If he put on the helmet, he would feel like he was going to the battlefield to kill the enemy. The armor weighed nearly 10 kilograms. Fortunately, Lin Muyu's cultivation was much higher than before, so he did not feel that it was heavy. He spurred his horse out of the Holy Sanctum's main gate. From afar, he could see Chu Huijin, who was wearing the armor of the Imperial Guards, standing in front of the Spiritual Medicine Department's main gate. He was leading 2 horses. It was obvious that he was here to pick up Chu Yao. "Brother Chu Huijin." Lin Muyu spurred his horse over and dismounted. He smiled and said, "You're here too." Chu Huijin couldn't help but smile. "Yu is here. Wait a moment, Yao will be out soon." As he spoke, Chu Huijin looked at his attire and couldn't help but laugh. This set of gold star armor that the Holy Sanctum custom made at the Ministry of Works is really beautiful. I can't get tired of looking at it. It looks even more handsome on you. At this moment, Chu Yao came out. She was dressed in the uniform of a female pharmacist from the Spiritual Medicine Department. She was graceful and graceful. When she saw Lin Muyu, she almost didn't recognize her. Her eyes widened as she giggled. "I almost couldn't recognize you when he's dressed like this. But he looks quite good." "Thank you, Sister Chu Yao. Shall we set off?" "Okay." The 3 of them mounted their horses together. Chu Huijin spurred his horse and led the way in front. Lin Muyu and Chu Yao followed behind slowly. Chu Huijin and Lin Muyu were both wearing the robes of a general, so they looked very serious. The pedestrians on Skirich Street all gave way to them, even though they weren't riding very fast. Not long after, they arrived at a quiet courtyard. It was Tingyu Tower. From afar, a few shop assistants walked up and asked with a smile, "Sirs, do you have invitations?" "Yes." Lin Muyu took out the invitation that Tang Xiaoxi had left behind. "So it's Princess Shi's guest. Please go up to the 7th floor. Leave the horses to us." At this time, the sun had already set. Red lanterns were lit everywhere in the courtyard of the rain-listening building. Young and beautiful maidservants, who looked like palace maids, were busy carrying delicacies and fruit trays, going straight up to the 7th floor. That was the most expensive box in the rain-listening building. Especially on a day like the Upper West Festival, the cost of reserving the 7th floor was extraordinarily expensive. I heard that the cost of the 7th floor of Tingyu Tower during the last lunar festival is 700 Jinin coins a night. Chu Yao stuck out her tongue and laughed. Chu Huijin smiled slightly. It's okay, we don't have to treat you. Lin Muyu said, yes, Xiaoxi is rich, she doesn't care about this. When the three of them went upstairs, they saw a group of Imperial Guards guarding outside the door. The commander of the Imperial Guards, Qin Lei, was wearing a general's robe and had his hand on the hilt of his sword. He smiled and said, all the guests are here. He didn't recognize Lin Muyu and asked in surprise, this is? Chu Huijin said respectfully, reporting to Lord Commander, he is Princess Xi's guest, Lin Muyu. Oh, I see. Let's go in. Qin Lei grinned and didn't say anything. When they entered, they saw that Tang Xiaoxi and Feng Jixing were already there. Tang Xiaoxi quickly stood up and smiled. All right, since everyone is here, let's quickly take a seat. I'll ask them to serve the dishes. Yes, I'll listen to the princess. Mu, come and sit beside me. Tang Xiaoxi said with a smile. Lin Muyu was a little embarrassed, but Chu Huijin smiled and gave him a look. He could only walk over dejectedly. His armor made some noises as he sat down beside Tang Xiaoxi. Tang Xiaoxi tilted her head and looked at him. A trace of confusion flashed past her beautiful eyes. She smiled and said, Mu, the Empire's general's uniform fits you very well. I've never seen a general who fits this armor better than you. Feng Jixing rubbed his nose and said sourly, from what the princess said, it seems that Commander Qin Lei and I don't look good in this general's robe. Qin Lei sat down and clapped his hands. The commander of the Imperial Guards is jealous. Look at you, aren't you embarrassed to be the commander of 30,000 Imperial Guards? Lin Muyu smiled awkwardly. Everyone, please don't ridicule me. I'm just a sparring partner of the Divine Temple. I can't be compared to you generals who have a lot of troops. Qin Lei shook his head and smiled. Hey, you don't have to be so modest. We all know that you're the strongest sparring partner in the Divine Temple. Moreover, the Divine Temple is the cradle of the Empire's famous generals. Many famous generals came from the Divine Temple. Feng Jixing, Chu Huijin, and I were all from the Divine Temple, so you don't have to be so modest. Yes, thank you. What's your name? Qin Lei was stunned. He couldn't help but laugh. My name is Qin Lei. I'm the eldest son of Prince Jining. I'm the commander of the Imperial Guards. Lin Muyu's heart skipped a beat. It seemed that tonight's Eve banquet was not simple. The people that Tang Xiaoxi invited seemed to be more powerful than the other. This Qin Lei was the son of a prince. He was definitely one of the top figures in the empire. Chapter 76. Come, this is the sweetest jasper flower wine in Lanyan City. Have a taste. The maid poured a cup of wine, and the fragrance of the wine filled the air. Feng Jixing held the cup and smiled. Let's drink 3 cups first. After that, it's time for the performance. Lin Muyu was stunned. There was a performance? She picked up the wine cup and drank it in one gulp. She immediately felt as if a stream of sweet spring water flowed into her throat. There was no strong spiciness at all. Tang Xiaoxi also drank a cup, then smiled and said, then I'll go and prepare. Prepare for what? Lin Muyu was stunned. Tang Xiaoxi held onto his shoulder and stood up. She smiled and said, you'll know in a while. Thus, Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, Chu Huijin, Qin Lei, and Chu Yao sat at the table and drank another 2 cups of wine. At this time, a few attendants carried a huge drum and placed it in front of them. Lin Muyu suddenly thought of something and smiled. Is it a big encouragement? Feng Jixing couldn't help but smile. No, it's a long-sleeve dance. Oh. You, look to the right and you'll know, Feng Jixing said. Lin Muyu turned around and saw that Tang Xiaoxi had changed into a new set of clothes. It was still red like fire, but this set of clothes had long, wide sleeves. It was the kind that perfectly outlined Tang Xiaoxi's slender waist and perky butt. As she walked, the long sleeves swayed. There was indeed an indescribable sense of beauty. Releasing her fire fox martial spirit, Tang Xiaoxi leaped onto the surface of the drum. Her body was very light, and with the support of the fire fox, she felt like she was floating in the air. Lin Muyu stared at her in a daze. She couldn't help but say, a light body that can dance on the palm. This is probably what it feels like, right? Chu Huayin couldn't help but smile. A light body can dance on the palm? Ah, Yu is really erudite and multi-talented. This sentence is so beautiful when I think about it. I'm just borrowing it, ha. At this time, Tang Xiaoxi waved her long sleeves and said with a smile, this is a long sleeve dance that I just learned not long ago, so I'm not very familiar with it. I don't know if it will work well with Xiao Yin's Song of the Autumn Goose. Xiao Yin, shall we begin? However, he heard a sweet voice from behind the bead curtain, let's begin. In the next moment, a melodious sound of the zither sounded, and Tang Xiaoxi gently danced her graceful figure, like a beautiful fairy floating on the surface of a drum. The sound of the zither was melodious, complementing Tang Xiaoxi's movements, really like a beautiful swan goose flying in the sky. But not long after, the sound of the zither suddenly became intense. Immediately a kind of aura of a powerful army overflowed in the room, and Tang Xiaoxi's dance steps also sped up a little, her slender feet on the surface of the drum, like the sound of a war drum. The sound of the zither stopped abruptly, and the song ended. Tang Xiaoxi was already kneeling on the drum with her knees in a spiral position. She bowed with her hands clasped in front of her, looking magnificent. Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing and the rest were all dumbstruck, while Qin Lei quickly clapped his hands and cheered, His Highness and Princess's zither and dance are simply the best match in the world. Tang Xiaoxi giggled, and leapt onto the ground. Soon after, she lifted the bead curtain, and said with a smile, Xiao Yin, quickly come out and eat. Lin Muyu's eyes widened. She also really wanted to know what kind of person could play such a melodious yet soul-stirring zither song. It must be someone outside of this world, right? But, just as that young lady wearing a dark blue cloak walked out from the inner room carrying the zither, Lin Muyu was immediately dumbstruck. That absolutely beautiful face, where had he seen it before? Qin Yin walked out with the support of Tang Xiaoxi. Putting down the zither, she raised her head and discovered a handsome youth looking at her. In a split second, she was also dumbstruck. You? How could it be you? Why, the two of you know each other. Tang Xiaoxi was dumbstruck. Lin Muyu was dumbstruck, and suddenly thought of the 1,000 gold yin coins. She couldn't help but say, Beauty, you still owe me a diamond coin. I couldn't find you anywhere. Everyone was dumbstruck. No one knew that Lin Muyu and Qin Yin had actually met before. What exactly is going on? Tang Xiaoxi was confused. Qin Yin's little face was flushed red, and she suddenly remembered that she was poisoned by the dragon snake's venom that night, and it was Lin Muyu who detoxified the poison for her. But when he detoxified the poison, he also saw her body, and her face was flushed red for a moment. She stammered, So the person who detoxified the poison for me in the dragon-seeking forest that day was you. Feng Jixing instantly understood everything, and couldn't help but laugh out loud. What a coincidence, the affairs of the world are like chess. That night, it was actually you who saved your highness. I should have guessed it. Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful eyes widened. Ah. Xiao Yin, it was really Mu who detoxified the poison for you? Lin Muyu didn't dare to speak anymore. He realized that this Xiao Yin wasn't an ordinary person, so he asked weakly, May I know who this Miss Xiao Yin is? Tang Xiaoxi smiled, and said word by word, Her name is Qin Yin, the daughter of the current emperor, the Radiant King, the Empire's Princess Royal. Buzz. Lin Muyu's mind went blank, and his face turned green and purple. He was so conflicted that he wanted to die. No wonder I couldn't find her at Tongtian Street 1. Qin Yin smiled faintly, but I really live at Tongtian Street 1's Zetian Palace. If you can't find me, then don't blame me for not returning you the 1,000 Qin Yin coins. Qin Lei was more simple and honest, but he was still confused. He turned around and asked, You, what's with this 1,000 Qin Yin coins? Lin Muyu even wanted to die. asking the Empire's princess for 1,000 Jin coins to save his life, unless he didn't want to live anymore. He raised his wine cup, smiled shamelessly, and said, "It's nothing. Let's drink this cup of wine, and these past events will be written off like passing clouds." Feng Jixing had long guessed the mystery behind this, and he was speechless. You really can do what you say." Lin Muyu was so embarrassed that he wanted to find a hole to hide in. At this time, Qin Yin also saw Lin Muyu's awkwardness, so she stood up and walked leisurely to his table with her wine cup. She slowly knelt down and raised her wine cup with a refreshing smile on her face. "No matter what, you saved my life that night. This cup of wine is my thanks to you." "Thank you." Lin Muyu was at a loss of what to do when the beautiful princess knelt in front of him just a step away. He hurriedly raised his cup and said, "I am an apothecary, and it is my duty to treat and save people. Moreover, it was fate that I met your highness that day. There is no need for your highness to thank me, this actually makes me feel a little ashamed." Qin Yin burst into laughter, and said in a peerless manner, "Since General Feng calls you you, then can I also call you you?" "Of course, please go ahead, your highness." Qin Yin drained the cup of wine in one gulp, and her long, snow-white neck was very attractive. Lin Muyu also raised his cup and drained it in one gulp, a myriad of feelings welling up in his heart. He hadn't thought that he would be so close to the ruler of this world. The Empire's princess was sitting right in front of him, and even the fragrance of Qin Yin's body wriggled into his nose. This feeling was too wonderful. So many people had been dreaming for so many years, and now he had realized it. Tang Xiaoxi tilted her head and looked at the blushing Lin Muyu. She asked with a smile, "Mu, are you nervous?" "Don't worry, Xiao Yin isn't fierce." He agreed softly. At this time, Qin Yin stood up and walked gracefully back to her seat. She said with a smile, "Father had originally wanted me to accompany him in Zhe Tian Hall for the last lunar festival, but I couldn't refuse Xiaoxi's kindness and had no choice but to come. It was a good thing that I saw Xiaoxi's long sleeves dance, and I also saw Lin Muyu who saved my life. I was so happy that I couldn't put into words." At this time, Chu Yao stood up and gave a courteous bow, saying, "Your Highness, today is a coincidence. This little girl, Chu Yao, would like to ask for justice for me and Ayu." "Oh?" Qin Yin was slightly surprised. "Sister Chu Yao, what is it?" Chu Yao recounted the tragedy that had happened in Silver Fir City. Qin Yin's eyes widened. She had lived in Zhe Tian Hall since she was a child, so she had no idea that the outside world was so dangerous. At first, her beautiful face was filled with shock, but then it turned into anger. She slammed her fist on the table with a loud bang, and the god-binding chains appeared around her. How despicable! How can a bastard like Hua Tian be the city governor of Silver Fir City? Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said, "Your Highness, I have already sent someone to investigate this murder case in Silver Fir City. I believe that it won't be long before we gather enough evidence to prove you and Yao's innocence." Qin Yin nodded, and a smile finally appeared on her beautiful face. She promised, "Sister Chu Yao, don't worry. General Feng will definitely clear your names. Even if he can't, I will still be here." "Thank you, Your Highness." Chu Yao nodded with a smile. After 3 rounds of wine, Feng Jixing, Chu Huaying, and Qin Lei were all slightly tipsy. Even the 3 beauties, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Chu Yao, were blushing. They had entered a tipsy state. Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said with a smile, "Your Highness, I have something to say, but I don't know if I should say it." "Please say it, General Feng." Qin Yin's face was slightly red, and she looked at the grapes on the plate with a smile. Feng Jixing said, "Yu is currently a battle saint at level 59, and is about to break through to the heaven realm. He is one of the rare experts in Lanyan City. He is currently a sparring master in the Holy Palace. I would like to recommend you to join the Royal Army and become a member of the Royal Guard. What do you think, Your Highness?" "The Royal Guard?" Qin Yin opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but stopped. After a few seconds, she said with a red face, "General Feng, the royal army is appointed by my father. I rarely interfere with it. If that's the case, just pretend that I have never mentioned this. Feng Jixing laughed. Lin Muyu said, is the royal guard better than the holy palace? Chu Huaying couldn't help but laugh. He looked at this silly boy and said, the core security of the entire Zhe Tian Palace is handled by the royal guard. Moreover, the royal guard has the opportunity to be promoted to the white-robed royal guard, and become the personal guard of the emperor and her highness. This is a supreme honor. Currently, there are only 6 white-robed royal guards in the empire. They are Chu Chu, Lei Hong, Du Hai, Qin Lei, Yao Yuan, and Feng Jixing. Every one of them is an indomitable character. It would be great if you could join the royal guard. Lin Muyu came to a sudden realization. So there were 2 white-robed imperial guards present here. Feng Jixing and Qin Lei's status could already stand side by side with Chu Chu and Lei Hong. Chapter 77. Hey! It's so boring to just drink like this. Qin Lei suddenly stood up and cupped his fists. He smiled and said, why don't we remove the table in the middle and use martial arts to make friends? Brother Feng, we haven't sparred in a long time, right? Sparring here? Feng Jixing was stunned. He smiled and said, I don't think that's a good idea. Today is the Lunar New Year's Eve festival, we have to be friendly. Qin Lei was impatient. We are all martial artists, what's there to be unfriendly about? Xiao Yin, don't you think so? The corner of Qin Yin's mouth curled up, revealing her dimples. She said, since we're going to compete in martial arts, we can't make a big fuss. I have a suggestion. No one is allowed to summon their martial spirits. Once they do, they'll lose. Also, martial arts is too dangerous. Sword duel? Lin Muyu was stunned. Qin Yin smiled and nodded. Yes, we will only compete in swordsmanship. How about that? Feng Jixing said, that's good. Swordsmanship is the most important of the 6 martial arts. Let's compete in swordsmanship. It won't hurt our friendship. Hee, my swordsmanship is only third-rate. I hope that everyone will give in to me. Qin Lei, Feng Jixing, Chu Huayin, and the others were all high-ranking soldiers. Their main weapons were spears, sabers, and other long-handled weapons. However, everyone had a sword. This was a must. The attendants quickly removed the table in the middle, leaving an empty space. Feng Jixing leaped up, and with a keng, he pulled out the shiny long sword at his waist. With a light flick of his wrist, a sword flower appeared, and he said with a smile, come, who wants to have a taste of this Feng's mediocre sword art? Chu Huayin laughed and walked over. He slowly pulled out his sword and cupped his fists. Brother Feng, let's have a taste. Hey! Feng Jixing took the initiative to attack. His long sword was surging with battle energy, and the blade of the sword swept out 3 times in a row. Chu Huaying's swordsmanship was more gentle, and he gently avoided Feng Jixing's attack. Then, he counterattacked. Feng Jixing quickly blocked. The 2 of them passed by each other, and their swords had already collided 7 times. Fortunately, both of them had restrained their dou qi. Otherwise, the sword qi alone would have turned this place into a mess. Xu Yao looked at the 2 of them fighting and clapped her hands with a smile. Big brother, you can do it. Feng Jixing's laughter could be heard. Your brother's swordsmanship is so clumsy, how can he cheer? Ding! Amidst the sound of the sword, Chu Huaying quickly retreated with his long sword. He slid back a few meters on the floor and hit the wall. There was a trace of shock on his face. He raised his head and smiled, Brother Feng, you fell into your trap again. Feng Jixing's swordsmanship had a soft edge to it, and it was this soft edge that had defeated Chu Huaying. It's my turn. Qin Lei was a martial arts fanatic. He took out his sword every 2 or 3 steps and launched a series of attacks. It was obvious that his swordsmanship cultivation was far above Feng Jixing's, and he was quite methodical. After 3 to 5 rounds, Feng Jixing was already in danger. He hurriedly jumped out of the arena, cupped his fists, and said, "Commander Qin is formidable. I have learned a lot." "Ah, you admit defeat just like that?" Qin Lei was stunned. He looked as if he hadn't fought enough. He said resentfully, "I thought that your swordsmanship had improved, but I didn't expect that you were lazy and didn't learn swordsmanship at all." Feng Jixing laughed. "I specialize in the wind blade technique, not swordsmanship." Qin Lei swept his gaze around, and his gaze descended onto Lin Muyu instead as he said with a smile, "Ah, you carry a sword on your back. I presume that you're a sword user as well. Come. How about we exchange a few moves?" "Ah." Lin Muyu was stunned. He had never thought that he would have to fight. He hurriedly shook his head and said, "There's no need. I'm just a sparring master from the Divine Palace, and my cultivation is in the Earth realm. How can I compete with you people in the Heaven realm, you?" Qin Lei's eyes widened, and he said, "Are you not giving me, Qin Lei, any face?" At the side, Tang Xiaoxi extended her hand and pushed Lin Muyu's arm. She smiled and said, "Mu is an expert. Brother Qin Lei, you have to be careful. If you lose, the entire imperial army will lose face." Qin Lei's eyes widened. "You?" Lin Muyu had already been forced to do something beyond his ability. He could only stand up and step into the arena. He emphasized, "Don't use your martial soul, right?" "Yes, draw your sword." Lin Muyu stood majestically on the spot. His right hand was placed horizontally in front of his chest. Streams of qi enshrouded him, and the prairie fire sword behind him unsheathed itself with a clang. He raised his hand and grabbed it. Streams of flames appeared on the sword's blade. Good sword, what a handsome sword technique. Qin Lei couldn't help but feel that it was interesting. He had seen many experts in the imperial sword technique, but none of them had the imposing manner that Lin Muyu in front of him had. Even Qin Yin widened her beautiful eyes and looked at Lin Muyu. She completely didn't think that this shameful fellow who loved money as much as his life would actually have such an extraordinary imposing manner when drawing his sword. "I'm coming." Qin Lei shouted and rushed out from the sword. Even with a light leap, the sword light was like a roulette spinning and chopping down 4 times in a row. Lin Muyu couldn't retreat. He held the sword hilt with both hands to block. He only felt that his arms were about to be shaken off. After the 4 consecutive shakes, he didn't even have time to react after he finished blocking. Qin Lei roared and raised his battle boots to kick out. "I have to block, or else I'll lose." In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, Lin Muyu raised his battle boots and met Qin Lei's kick with a tapeng. However, it was obvious that the opponent's do qi was stronger, causing him to continuously retreat a few steps. However, at the moment when he was forced to retreat, a lightning light flew out from his right hand with a pa-pa. The prairie fire sword had already left his hand and was in the air. Whoosh! The purplish-blue lightning light wrapped around the prairie fire sword and blasted straight towards Qin Lei. Lin Muyu didn't use his full strength and only used 50% of his strength. He was also afraid that he would injure Qin Lei. What? Qin Lei was stunned. He hurriedly raised his iron fist and condensed 3 layers of qi armor to block. Pung! The lightning light shot out in all directions. Qin Lei had underestimated Lin Muyu's strength and was continuously forced to continuously retreat a few steps. His face immediately flushed red. With a low shout, he concentrated a large amount of do qi into the blade of his sword and leaped up. From a high position, he gave another attack. This bull was planning to use strength to restrain the opponent. This attack was really too strong. Even the bitingly cold do qi blew to the point that Lin Muyu almost couldn't open his eyes. Opening his palm, a light breeze was silently generated. It was precisely the prelude to the prairie fire sword. Ha! When Lin Muyu raised his palm, the prairie fire sword, as if it had a mind of its own, followed along and welcomed the attack, sweeping up a bitterly cold storm in a small area. The weapon in Qin Lei's hand was only made of ordinary iron and couldn't be compared to the Prairie Fire Sword, which was a 5th-tier mystic rank sword. Adding on the power of the sword's soul, with a sharp whistling sound, the gale break collided with Qin Lei's attack storm. Pung! Another loud sound, the energy exploded. Qin Yin, Feng Jixing, Tang Xiaoxi, Chu Yao and the rest were all stunned. Qin Lei's face was full of shock. He had never thought that this little brat's prairie fire sword technique would be so strong. It wasn't like the weak and powerless attacks of those sword users he had met in the past. Lin Muyu's fighting spirit was even higher. He really wanted to see the power of the quadruple elemental sword technique, and Qin Lei, this level 72 Heavenly King stage powerhouse, was practically a rare touchstone. Wang! The blade whistled and spun. Lin Muyu's palms spread out horizontally. Raging flames sustained the prairie fire sword. However, this attack he didn't use the true dragon essence fire, only using ordinary fire. The long sword whistled, spiraling flames encircling it. Like a sharp arrow, it shot towards Qin Lei. Qin Lei was startled. He already felt that he couldn't block this attack. Ha! His battle boots stomped on the ground. In the midst of the shocking sound, golden chains rose in the surroundings. It was his God-binding chain's martial spirit. Brother Qin Lei. Qin Yin suddenly stood up. His eyes were full of anxiety. The God-binding chains was known as the first-grade martial spirit with the most destructive power in the world. This wasn't a joke. The slightest mistake could cause Qin Lei's opponent to lose his life. Lin Muyu had saved his life before. To let him die in front of him was something Qin Yin couldn't do. Pung! The flames exploded. The spiraling flames of the prairie fire sword collided with the God-binding chains. Qin Lei retreated a few steps. His qi and blood surged, and his fighting spirit surged. He didn't care about Qin Yin's scolding anymore. With a wave of his long sword, the God-binding chains encircled the long sword and struck towards Lin Muyu. Standing firmly on both feet, the overwhelming true qi surged. Lin Muyu summoned the dragon scale wall and the black tortoise shell at the fastest speed. At the same time, he used the prairie fire sword to control the prairie fire which bounced back. The true dragon essence fire quickly encircled the blade. Since the true dragon essence fire could easily injure people, then it should be safer to use it for defense? Pung! A loud sound, as if the entire 7th floor of the Tingling Rain building was about to be overturned. Ga, 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 Lin Muyu knelt on one knee on the ground, panting heavily. The dragon scale wall and the black tortoise shell had already been shattered. The prairie fire was propped up on the floor. If it wasn't for the protection of the true dragon essence fire, perhaps she would have already been killed. Qin Lei held the long sword and stood there with a pale complexion. His God-binding chain's martial soul had actually been completely shattered at that moment. The damage to his martial soul would inevitably injure his body. He felt a sweetness in his throat and spat out a mouthful of blood. Raising his head to look at Lin Muyu, he grinned and said, "You, what a beautiful sword art and defense. Ha, delightful. Delightful. Let's fight again." Lin Muyu didn't even raise her head. Instead, she raised her left hand and shook it. "Big brother Qin Lei, I don't want to fight anymore. I admit defeat." The qi and blood in his body surged. He indeed didn't have the strength to fight anymore. Tang Xiaoxi shot forward and supported Lin Muyu. "Are you all right?" Chu Yao also came over and took Lin Muyu's pulse, saying with a smile, "I'm fine. It's just that her martial soul suffered some damage." Qin Yin, on the other hand, looked at Qin Lei with a trace of reproach and said, "Big brother Qin Lei, you're too rash. You actually used the 7th layer of the God-binding chains to hit Ayu. If it wasn't for his deep cultivation, I'm afraid he would have already." Qin Lei's face was full of apology. I know I was wrong. Xiao Yin, don't be angry. It's fine. Sit down and heal your internal injuries. Feng Jixing raised his wine cup and said with a smile, where did your imperial sword technique come from? A mysterious old man, oh? Feng Jixing knew that he didn't want to talk about it, so he said with a smile, since you have such a good sword technique, it would be a pity if you didn't participate in the sword duel conference that's held once every 3 years. Sword duel conference? Yes, the sword duel conference that's held once every 3 years. The person who wins first place can become a member of the Imperial Guards and receive the honor of meeting His Majesty. As he spoke, Feng Jixing patted his chest and said with a smile, I'm not talented, but I was the champion of the sword duel conference 3 years ago. I think I also had the title of Tiger of Tongtian Street back then. Tiger of Tongtian Street? Chu Huayin laughed and said, it means that he carried a broken knife from the east side of Tongtian Street to the west side. He fought with a bunch of hooligans all day and was unbeatable. Sigh, the world is unfair. This kind of person can actually become a commander of the Imperial Guards. Feng Jixing glared at him and said, you're so ugly, don't talk. Chu Huayin was speechless. Chapter 78. Qin Lei led more than 30 Imperial Guards to escort Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi back to the mansion. Feng Jixing was drunk, carrying his precious sword and leading his own war horse. He turned over and leaned on the horse's back. He turned around to look at Lin Muyu and asked with a smile, You drank so much, can you still ride a horse? Lin Muyu grabbed the reins and clamped the helmet under her armpit. She said with a smile, I can. Brother Feng should be more worried about whether you can ride a horseback or not. Feng Jixing couldn't help but laugh, this is not a problem. Lanyan City is my, Feng Jixing's, home. It doesn't matter if I get lost at home. Even if I am drunk, my brothers will find me and carry me back. Qin Lei burped. He was still carrying the wine jar in his hand and said, Imperial Guards, get on the horse. The lantern light outside Tingyu building was extremely dim. Lin Muyu couldn't see the faces of Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi clearly. She only saw the 2 beautiful girls get on their respective horses. She asked, Your Highness, Xiaoxi, do you want me to send you back first and then I will go back to the Holy Temple? Brother Qin Lei drank too much. Qin Yin smiled with her dimples under the dim starlight, You also drank too much. Go back and rest early. Don't worry, Lanyan City is the imperial capital. There are dozens of Imperial Guards with extraordinary strength behind me. No one can do anything to me. I will also protect Xiaoxi. You should go back to the Holy Temple early. It is very late. Be careful of the wolves in the dark. Yes. Lin Muyu knew that what Qin Yin knew was a person like Shen Fang who couldn't wait to tear her into pieces. She spurred the horse and said with a smile, Then we will meet again if fate allows it. Tang Xiaoxi's eyes were hazy from the alcohol. She smiled and said, Goodbye, Mu. Qin Yin looked at Lin Muyu's receding figure and suddenly thought of something. She said loudly, You, remember to participate in the sword duel tournament. If you can enter the finals, Father and I will attend your celebration feast. The night was cold, and she didn't know if he heard it. A royal guard held onto the reins of Qin Yin's mount and said, Your Highness, shall we return to Zhe Tian Palace? That person has gone far away. Qin Yin looked into the distance with her starry eyes. She blinked and said with a smile, Let's send Xiaoxi back to the Duke of Seven Seas' residence first. Then, we'll return to Zhe Tian Palace. Let's go. Yes, Lin Muyu and Chu Huayin sent Xu Yao back to the spiritual medicine department. Then, they turned and went straight to the Holy Palace. When the 2 guards in the Holy Palace saw his attire, they immediately saluted him with a solemn expression. Lord Lin Ji, you're back. Lin Muyu nodded in acknowledgement and spurred her horse into the Holy Palace. After walking through the long corridor, just as they were about to go to the stables, a figure suddenly ran over. With the light from the torches, they could see the beard on his face. It was Zhang Wei. Lord Zhang Wei, what's the matter? Lin Muyu asked. Zhang Wei looked at the guards around them and said in a low voice, Lord Lin Ji, there's something I have to tell you. But, this isn't the place to talk. Come with me. Lin Muyu got off the horse and walked into the training hall with Zhang Wei. Then, she asked, can you tell me now? What's the matter? Zhang Wei gritted his teeth and said, Brother, do you still remember Little Beansprout? Yes, of course I remember. Little Beansprout died tragically under Ouyang Qiu's sword. I'll remember it for the rest of my life. Little Beansprout's death was only exchanged for 500 Jin coins. However, the 500 Jin coins still didn't reach his parents. What? Lin Muyu's body trembled. She widened her eyes and looked at Zhang Wei. What exactly happened? Zhang Wei took a deep breath and said angrily, Little Beansprout's hometown is the Wuxia village outside of Yanlan City. His parents are still alive, but, this morning, I was ordered to bring the Holy Palace Knights out to buy winter clothes. When I passed by Wuxia village, I saw that Little Beansprout's parents were killed by someone. The 500 Jin coins also disappeared without a trace. Damn it. Lin Muyu was furious. She was still tipsy and her face turned red. Could it be Zhenfang and Ouyang Qiu's doing? Zhang Wei sighed. Most likely, the two of us have already offended the Divine Marquis residents. It's expected that Zhenfang would kill Little Beansprout's parents to vent his anger. It's all my fault for being careless. Otherwise, the two of them could have escaped this calamity. No, it's my fault. Lin Muyu clenched her fists in pain. Zhang Wei looked at her deeply. Sir Lin Ji, Little Beansprout's parents shouldn't have been killed so unjustly, right? Even if we can't avenge Little Beansprout, we should at least avenge his parents. Lin Muyu nodded lightly. Who is the person in charge of this case? The Fire Sparrow Division. Zhang Wei said blandly. The Fire Sparrow Division is responsible for all murder cases in Lanyan City. However, the Fire Sparrow Division is part of the Ministry of Justice, and the Minister of Justice is a frequent visitor of the Divine Marquis residence. Once the Divine Marquis residence exerts pressure, the Fire Sparrow Division will not be able to find anything. Furthermore, I've already received news that the Fire Sparrow Division has confirmed that Little Beansprout's parents were killed by bandits. The 500 Jin coins were the cause of their deaths. As he spoke, Zhang Wei punched the wall heavily. They died from a sword piercing through their throats. Half of their throats were shattered by the sword qi. There are only a handful of people in Lanyan City who have such sword skills. If it wasn't Ouyang Qiu, who else could it be? Lin Muyu nodded. I understand. Let's go see Deacon Lei Hong. Okay. The two of them led their horses straight to Lei Hong's residence. After knocking on the door a few times, Lei Hong floated out with a faint smile. You, Zhang Wei, you too, Sai, you shouldn't meddle in things that you shouldn't. There are so many injustices in this world, can you handle them all? Clearly, Reham was very clear about Little Beansprout's matter. He knew the ins and outs of this matter better than anyone else. Lin Muyu cupped her fists and said, Grandpa Lei Hong, the temple is the temple of the Empire's martial artists. If even the temple can tolerate those madmen who kill the innocent, then what is the temple? Can it still be considered the martial spirit of the Empire's cultivators? Aren't we cultivating martial arts to defend the Empire and fight for the weak? Lei Hong was taken aback. These words, no one dares to say to me like this. Lin Muyu's eyes were filled with pride. Grandpa Lei Hong, you are the deacon of the Divine Temple. You have to shoulder this burden even if you don't want to. Otherwise, you are not fit to be the deacon. Lei Hong's eyes widened. After a while, he shook his head helplessly. You stinking brat, I really don't know what to do with you. How could that old fellow Chu Chu accept such a stubborn disciple like you? Fine, I still have to give face to Chu Chu. Go get the horses and follow me to the Fire Sparrow Division. Thank you, Grandpa Lei Hong. Zhang Wei was also overjoyed. He cupped his fists and said, Thank you, Deacon. The Empire's Fire Sparrow Division was located on the right side of the Ministry of Justice. The entire building was connected together, and the main hall of the Fire Sparrow Division was like a fire sparrow soaring through the 9 heavens. It had an awe-inspiring and lifelike appearance. Outside the main hall, 8 guards stood guard with swords in their hands. The torches at the side flickered and flickered. The sound of hooves grew louder as Lei Hong, Lin Muyu, and Zhang Wei stopped their horses in front of the main hall. "Who are you?" the guards shouted. Rei Hong slowly lifted his cloak, revealing his aged face. "So it's the temple's deacon." The group of guards knelt down. Lei Hong was not only the deacon, he was also one of the 6 white-robed royal guards of the empire. He had the right to have an audience with the emperor. Such an important person was not someone the guards could afford to offend. "May I know why the deacon is visiting the Fire Sparrow Division so late at night?" "I want to see the Fire Sparrow Division's head Master Jianghu." "Master Jianghu is already asleep. Please pass the message to him." "Yes." Not long after, the guard returned and said, "Deacon, please come in." "Thank you." The guards led the group into the main hall of the Flamecracks Division. The attendants lit up the lanterns, illuminating the hall. A man dressed in the uniform of a civil official flew up to greet them, knelt on the ground, and said, "Subordinate Jianghu, greets Deacon Lei Hong." Lei Hong helped him up and smiled, "Master Jianghu, there is no need to be so courteous. Get up, get up. May I know why the deacon is here?" Why don't you tell him?" "Yes." Lin Muyu cupped her fists and told him about the tragic death of little Beansprout's parents. After listening, Jianghu's expression did not look too good. "This case has already been closed. If you want to reopen it now, I'm afraid it will be a little abrupt." "Deacon, Lei Hong said lightly, "Master Jianghu, the Fire Sparrow Division is in charge of the Empire's criminal law. As the head of the Fire Sparrow Division, you can't just sit back and do nothing when you know someone has died unjustly, right?" Jianghu took a deep breath. "This matter is of great importance." "I'm afraid," Lei Hong waved his hand, "you don't have to say any more. Write a document now, and hand over the authority to investigate this case to Lin Ji and Zhang Wei. This matter implicates our temple's people, and we need to clean them up. I have no choice but to interfere." Jianghu gritted his teeth and nodded, "Yes, but, if the Divine Marquis Constabulary investigates," Lei Hong smiled and patted him on the shoulder, "Don't worry, if the Divine Marquis Constabulary investigates, I, Lei Hong, will bear all responsibility." "Thank you, I will write it now." In the middle of the night, Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei rode on their horses, dressed in the Holy Temple's general robes, heading straight out of the city. The two of them did not speak. The only thing they wanted to do was to punish the evil, and not let Jinfang cover the Holy Temple and Lanyan City with one hand. Lei Hong looked at their backs from afar. He had gone all out to support them this time. As the deacon of the Holy Temple, he had kept a low profile for so many years, but now he had actually done something so out of line. Even Lei Hong was a little surprised, but he was still in a good mood. In Lin Muyu, he could faintly see a version of himself that was neither humble nor submissive, but after the baptism of time, his sharpness had been worn down, and now that he saw Lin Muyu, he could not help but think of himself in the past. He sighed softly, but suddenly felt relieved. He felt that this child was like a ray of light that had illuminated the darkness of the empire for thousands of years. Chapter 79. It was a quiet night in Wuxia village. The villagers were all asleep, and the sound of the horses' hooves did not wake them up. Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei went straight to the Firefinch Division, in the northwest of Wuxia village. Rather than calling it a division, it was more like a small courtyard. 2 officials were supervising the village, and the bodies of little Beansprout's parents were kept here. "Who is it?" One of the officials opened the door in a drunken stupor, and saw Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei in full armor. Both of them had the Holy Cathedral's gold and silver star badges on their necks. The official paused for a moment, and then respectfully said, "So it's the Lord of the Holy Cathedral. May I ask, why are you visiting the Firefinch Division in the middle of the night?" Lin Muyu nodded, and took out a document for him to read. Where are the bodies of Little Beansprout's parents? Can we bring them back? Yes. When they saw the bodies, Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei's hearts clenched. The two elders' heads were crooked to one side, and there was a shocking hole in their necks. Their bones and flesh had all been crushed, so their heads could no longer be connected to their bodies. This is indeed Xianxia's method of killing. Zhang Wei silently covered the bodies with a white cloth. Xianxia is an expert in using his dou qi to shatter his opponent's body. This is the same as Little Beansprout's death. We have the material evidence, we're just missing a witness. Lin Muyu said lightly, we need to find a witness to prove that Xianxia killed the two elders, otherwise we won't be able to convict him. Let's wait until tomorrow morning and go through the villagers one by one. Yes. The next morning, they went through the villagers one by one, and finally found a mute girl. She was acting crazily, and when she saw Lin Muyu and Xianxia, she screamed as if she had seen a ghost. Lin Muyu hurried forward and pressed her shoulder, saying, Miss, don't be afraid, we're not bad people, don't be afraid. The mute lady stared at the golden star of the temple on Lin Muyu's neck, and shook her head in horror, screaming out loud. The fire sparrow officer said, Sir, this little girl is a deaf and mute lunatic, you won't be able to get anything out of her. Really? Lin Muyu smiled coldly. He saw the mute lady take out a gold star badge from her bosom. In front of the gold star was the shape of a sword. That was the badge of a gold star sparring master from the holy sanctum. Zhang Wei snatched it over and asked, Miss, is this left behind by the murderer? The little girl nodded. She was too afraid to look up at Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei. It really is Xianxia. Zhang Wei flipped the badge over and said, Lin Ji, look, Xianxia's name is engraved on the back. This is indeed unintentionally left behind by Xianxia. This bastard really killed Little Beansprout's parents with his own hands. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth, send Little Beansprout's parents back to Lanyan City, and bring this girl along. Xianxia is dead meat. At noon, they arrived at the holy sanctum and handed over all the evidence to Deacon Guyang. The morning training had just ended, and the group of instructors and sparring masters were about to leave when they were gathered together again. Among them, Jin Feng and Xianxia were present. Lei Hong looked at them coldly and said, Instructors who killed sparring masters by mistake do not have to pay with their lives, but, if they intentionally killed multiple people, shouldn't they be punished according to the law? Great Deacon, what do you mean by this? Jin Feng asked. Lei Hong's voice was not angry, but it was imposing. Xianxia, kneel. Xianxia was startled, and immediately knelt down, saying, Great Deacon, what have I done wrong? Lin Muyu took out a gold star badge and showed it to Xianxia, saying, When you killed Little Beansprout's parents, you left this in the bushes. What? Xianxia's face paled. Lin Ji, don't slander me. Lei Hong said indifferently, Fire Sparrow Division's people will be here soon, this matter will be resolved. Xianxia, don't be nervous, if you really killed them on purpose, I will definitely clean up the sect. With the power of the holy sanctum, even if you didn't kill them, I will not accuse you. Lin Ji, you bastard, you just want to kill me, don't you? Xianxia's eyes were filled with anger. Lin Muyu did not speak, only looking at him coldly. Jin Feng stared coldly at Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei, and couldn't help but sneer, Lin Ji, Lord Zhang Wei, you guys are so impressive, you even dared to snatch Fire Sparrow C's job. Our divine temple is indeed full of heroes, in order to kill one of our own, you guys are willing to resort to such underhanded means. Xianxia is from the Divine Marquis Constabulary, I want to see what Fire Sparrow C can do to him. Lei Hong said coldly, Little Marquis, always leave some leeway, don't push things too far. Jin Feng raised his eyebrows, Lei Hong, don't think that I'm afraid of you just because you're white-robed Imperial Forest. If you dare touch Xianxia, go ahead and try, I will make you suffer. Is that so? Then let's wait and see. Lei Hong smiled lightly. Not long after, Fire Sparrow Division sent more than 10 people, including Jianghu himself. In a short span of 10 minutes, all the evidence and witnesses were present. Jianghu said lightly, according to the law, Xianxia should be executed immediately. Xianxia's body trembled. He quickly turned to Zhenfang. Little Marquis, save me. Zhenfang stepped forward, took out a golden token and said, wait, Xianxia is from the Divine Marquis Palace. He is a noble. I will use the Divine Marquis Palace's golden token to protect his life. No one can kill Xianxia. Jianghu was stunned. He looked at Lei Hong awkwardly. Lei Hong stroked his beard and smiled. The Divine Marquis Palace's golden token will protect his life. There is no problem. But the Holy Sanctum also has its own rules. Xianxia killed someone. He should accept the challenge trial. Little Marquis, what do you think? I will be the witness. Trial. Zhenfang was stunned. The so-called challenge trial was a type of duel, a battle to determine life and death. After a noble killed someone, the relatives and friends of the victim could challenge the killer once, and they would not be held accountable. This was an unwritten rule, and it was very popular in the Qin Empire where martial arts were the norm. Xianxia seemed to see hope. He laughed coldly. Little Beansprout is already dead. Who can challenge him on his behalf? In the entire Holy Sanctum, Xianxia's swordsmanship cultivation could be counted on one hand. There were not many people who could defeat him in a one-on-one fight, and Little Beansprout was a copper star sparring master. He only had a few close friends, and none of them were a match for Xianxia. At this time, Lin Muyu slowly took a step forward and said, if there is really a challenge, then let me challenge Lord Xianxia. Little Beansprout is my friend, and today, I will reclaim the dignity of the Holy Sanctum sparring masters. Lin Ji? Xianxia couldn't help but sneer. You're just a third-tier Earth Realm sparring partner. You've made a name for yourself in the Holy Palace. Do you really think you can defeat me? Lin Muyu smiled calmly. We will know after the battle. Humph. Xianxia's eyes revealed a trace of coldness. If you lose, I will not hesitate to tear your heart into pieces, dig it out, and feed it to the dogs. I, Xianxia, am a man of my words. Lin Muyu smiled faintly. I will also kill you as a sacrifice to Little Beansprout's parents, or else I am not worthy of being his friend. Lei Hong smiled faintly. 10 minutes later, the duel will take place in the main hall. Lord Jianghu and I will be the witnesses. Jianghu nodded happily. I am willing to listen to your orders. Lin Ji, you are crazy. Qin Xiling gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, Xianxia's imperial sword technique has already reached perfection. Although your defense is strong, you are definitely not his match. Also, Xianxia really wants to kill this time. If you lose, he will kill you. The rules of the trial state that no one can interfere, even if the head deacon wants to save you. Don't worry, Xiling. Lin Muyu patted his shoulder, smiled and said, if I am not confident, I will not challenge him. Yes, I hope you can avenge Little Beansprout. The surrounding sparring masters were indignant after knowing the truth. Little Beansprout's situation was exactly the same as theirs. The strong preying on the weak made them feel fear. One after another, they all cheered for Lin Muyu. Lin Ji, do your best to defeat him. Kill Xianxia, this scum of the instructors. Lin Ji, fight for the honor of us sparring partners. Don't lose, Lin Ji. Unknowingly, it seemed that Lin Muyu had already become the hope and soul of the temple's sparring masters. Lei Hong watched from the side and was secretly gratified. Temple needed this kind of hope. If the instructors and sparring masters were always one-sided, then Temple would never prosper. Xianxia was already preparing. He used the scarlet mantis to sharpen the edge of the sword. The scarlet mantis was a type of hard stone. It was also the best whetstone in the empire. When he was sharpening the sword, his voice also seemed to be a kind of contempt and provocation to his opponent. Fortunately, Lin Muyu's willpower was stronger than his. She did not care at all. The trial, prepare to begin. Deacon Guiyang shouted loudly. Xianxia jumped and stood in the center of the hall, his battle boots stomping on the stone floor. Immediately a wave of battle energy appeared. His martial soul also wrapped around his shoulders. The corner of his mouth curled up in a disdainful smile. Lin Ji, you are courting death. Lin Muyu walked step by step to the center of the hall, about 10 meters away from him. He lightly shouted. A wave of air surged around his body. This time, he did not summon the black tortoise shell or the dragon scale wall. Lin Ji gave up on defense. Is he crazy? One of the instructors said in shock. Zhang Wei frowned. Courting death. Xianxia let out a roar. His entire body was covered with battle energy. He opened his palms and used his qi to control the sword, charging toward Lin Muyu. Before he even got close to her, he had already condensed the energy of dozens of blades made of battle energy and attacked. Lin Muyu saw the opportunity. She raised her left palm, and the wind element that she had been accumulating for a long time burst out. This was the energy of the wind sword, the wind sword. Even though this energy was not enough to destroy Xianxia's attack, it could greatly delay the time of his attack. She opened her right palm, and purple lightning suddenly flickered. The burning prairie sword was unsheathed by itself, and under the guidance of the lightning, it shot toward Xianxia at lightning speed. The speed was so fast that it left everyone in the hall dumbfounded. No one had ever seen an attack with such speed and momentum. Wild thunder wave. Lightning circled around the burning prairie sword, carrying with it an unstoppable force. This was the attack that Lin Muyu had given up on defense, and she had converted all of her strength into an attack. The burning prairie sword directly pierced through Xianxia's qi armor, and in the next moment, lightning began to wreak havoc. Clang! Xianxia raised his sword in an attempt to block, but his sword was instantly shattered by the sharp burning prairie sword. Immediately after, the burning prairie sword pierced through his heart, and heavily nailed into the pillar behind him. Xianxia stood there in disbelief. He lowered his head to look at the armor in front of his chest, and saw that the armor in front of his chest had been pierced through, and his heart was almost burnt to a crisp. In an instant, his mind had already gone blank. Chapter 80. Peng, a speck of dust flew up, and Xianxia's heavy armor fell heavily to the ground. His eyes were blank, and his breathing had stopped at this moment. The hall was dead silent, and everyone stood there with their mouths agape. Even the sound of a needle falling to the ground could be heard. Including Lei Hong, no one could have guessed this result. The Gold Star instructor, Xianxia, was killed by Lin Muyu in a single move. How? How is this possible? Guiyang rubbed his eyes and said, Xianxia. He was the #1 swordsman of the sacred sanctum. How could he be killed by Lin Ji in a single move? Zhen Fang's eyes widened, and his body trembled. He did not dare to believe the truth in front of him, but Xianxia was still lying there, and his defeat was a fact. In fact, the biggest reason why Xianxia was defeated in a single move was because he had underestimated Lin Muyu. He did not expect Lin Muyu to also have grasped the imperial sword technique, and he did not expect that the kid's imperial sword technique would be so fast. Shasha, Zhang Wei strode forward with steady steps and pulled out the dagger from his waist. He knelt down on one knee in front of Xianxia's corpse and grabbed his hair. Then, he used the dagger to slowly slice his neck. Zhang Wei, what are you doing? Zhen Fang shouted angrily. Zhang Wei did not stop, and in a few seconds, he had already cut off Xianxia's head. He held it in his hand and laughed. He was just a sinner who died because of a trial, and I want to use his head to pay homage to little Beansprout and his parents. Why? Don't you think this is what you should do? You. Zhen Fang's face contorted, and his face was full of anger. Zhang Wei, you really have the guts to eat a bear's heart and a leopard's heart. Zhang Wei was originally full of guts, and he smiled slightly. I only did what I had to do. Lord Lin Ji, you won beautifully. Lin Ji stood there silently. He hadn't killed anyone for a long time, but he couldn't suppress his killing intent at that moment. If he didn't kill Xianxia today, he would be letting down his true self. Lei Hong, who was standing at the side, smiled faintly and raised his voice. There is no need to quarrel. The verdict is out. Lin Ji is the winner. Xianxia is a Gold Star instructor of the Holy Sanctum, yet he intentionally killed someone. His death cannot wipe out his crimes. Today, Xianxia will be stripped of all his titles and salary. He will be removed from the Holy Sanctum. We should all take him as a warning, not to kill the innocent, not to be cruel and ruthless. The group of instructors and sparring partners cupped their fists. Yes, Grand Deacon. Raham smiled and said, "Men, bury Ouyang Chio's body with the etiquette of a commoner." Everyone is dismissed. After lunch, afternoon training will continue as usual. Lin Ji, you stay behind. Yes. The group dispersed, only Lin Muyu remained in the hall, asking, "Grandpa Raham, what's the matter?" Raham sighed, "Even though you are talented, you are too reckless. Your actions today have completely offended the Divine Marquis residence. I'm afraid that your future days will not be good. The Divine Marquis residence has many claws and teeth in Lanyan City. I'm afraid that if you continue like this, you will definitely suffer at their hands." How about this? Raham thought for a moment, then said, "From today onwards, you will continue to train in the secret chamber. Other than the daily sparring partners, do not take a single step out of the holy sanctum. I will strengthen the security of the holy sanctum. At least we will not allow anyone to easily sneak into the holy sanctum." Lin Muyu knew that this was Raham's way of protecting her, and that she really didn't know the depth of the Divine Marquis residence, so she cupped her fists and said, "Yes, I will follow Grandpa Raham's arrangements." That's good. Raham was slightly gratified, even though this kid's actions were always unexpected, but to be able to listen to his advice was already not bad. At night, in the brightly lit Divine Marquis residence. Bang! The teacup on the table bounced a few times, spilling tea all over the table, and the aroma of tea wafted through the air. Zheng Yifan, the Divine Marquis of the Empire, was known as the God of War, but the current Zheng Yifan no longer had the elegance of his youth. His thin face was covered with the traces of time, only the light in his eyes remained the same. He clenched his fists and said in a low voice, "This is simply ridiculous. Killing people in the holy sanctum is one thing, but they actually dared to kill people in Luoxia village. Ouyang Chio deserved his death." Zheng Fang had not seen his father so angry for many years. He knelt on the ground, trembling, and said, "Father, but Ouyang Chio was a guest of the Divine Marquis residence. No matter what, we can't let him die like this. What else can we do?" Zheng Yifan's deep gaze fell on Zheng Fang. There was a hint of coldness in his eyes. "Fang, you disappoint me. Why did I send you into the holy sanctum? It was because I hoped that you would be able to cultivate peerless martial arts and extraordinary loyalty, but you only learned some lowly tricks in the holy sanctum. Don't say any more, otherwise I'll send you to the ascetic tower for 3 years." Zheng Fang's face was ashen. He was so scared that he could not speak. At this moment, a beautiful young girl carrying a tea tray slowly walked forward. She was dressed in clothes whiter than snow and had a face as beautiful as jade. She put down the tray and massaged Zheng Yifan's shoulders. She smiled and said, "Father, don't be angry at little brother. He's just young and impetuous. If you really lock him up in the ascetic pagoda, I'm afraid he'll become an ignorant piece of trash when he comes out in 3 years." The anger on Zheng Yifan's face subsided a little. He said, Xiang, you spoil your younger brother too much. Look at him. Where does he look like the young master of the Divine Marquis residence? He only knows how to befriend useless people all day long." This girl was Zheng Yifan's daughter, Zheng Xiang, Zheng Fang's older sister. Zheng Xiang smiled and said, "Father, let's forget about this matter. Ouyang Chio was the one who killed first. It was indeed his fault, and he died during the trial challenge. It has nothing to do with anyone else." Zheng Yifan nodded. "Yes, I know, Xiang, go and rest first. I'll think about it carefully." "Yes, okay." Zheng Xiang turned and left. After sensing that Zheng Xiang had gone far away, Zheng Yifan's eyes lit up. He said, "That brat named Lin Muyu killed Ouyang Chio. This is no different from provoking the Divine Marquis residence. Lei Hong was so protective of Lin Muyu. Isn't he looking down on the Divine Marquis residence? Since that old thing Lei Hong is not afraid of the Divine Marquis residence, then don't blame me for being rude." As he spoke, Zheng Yifan took a deep breath. After breathing in and out True Yuan, he smiled faintly. "Elder Tsang, I'm afraid you'll need to personally come out this time." "Divine Marquis, I'll do my best." An ethereal voice came from the sky. Zheng Fang hurriedly looked up and smiled in surprise. "Grandpa Tsang is in the capital? Aren't you going to welcome him?" Zheng Yifan smiled. Zheng Fang hurriedly turned around to open the door, only to see a sage-like old man under the moonlight, holding an iron staff in his hand. the corners of his mouth curled up with a doting smile. Feng, you've grown up so much. Grandpa Tsang, why are you here in Lanyan City? Didn't I want to see you in Xiangxiang? The old man stepped into the hall, and an invisible force of the sanctuary rippled with every step he took. Zheng Yifan smiled. Congratulations, Elder Tsang, you've finally entered the sanctuary. The old man looked up with a smile. Greetings, Divine Marquis. No need to be so polite, take a seat. Yes. Tsang Baihe, one of the few experts in the empire, was once a guest of the Divine Marquis residence. He followed Zheng Yifan to conquer the north and the south, but he went into hiding when the Radiant King was rewarding the officials. Now that he had reappeared in Lanyan City, he would surely bring about a bloodbath. Elder Tsang, you should know about the Divine Temple openly provoking the Divine Marquis residence, right? Zheng Yifan said casually as he personally brewed tea. Tsang Baihe nodded. I've heard a little, but the Divine Temple is not easy to deal with. Although many of the experts have retired, Lei Hong is still around. Although the Divine Marquis residence has many talents, they might not be able to gain the upper hand in a direct confrontation with Lei Hong. After all, other than Lei Hong, there are still Guiyang and a bunch of old guys with a cultivation of heaven state. I think the Divine Marquis would not want to fight Lei Hong directly, right? Zheng Yifan could not help but smile. The one who knows me best, Tsang Baihe. As he said this, a glint flashed across his eyes. Lei Hong ordered Lin Muyu to kill Ouyang Qiu. He is using a borrowed knife to kill him. If he can make a move, then so can we. Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei are both Lei Hong's trusted aides. Within 3 days, I want to see both of them crippled. Yes. Tsang Baihe smiled, his eyes flashing with killing intent. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lin Muyu had been staying in the Divine Temple to cultivate. She had become more proficient in the 4 elemental sword kinesis, and at the same time, she was also cultivating the forging dragon bone remnant scroll. The more she cultivated, the more she could feel the wonders of the forging dragon bone remnant scroll. Every 2 days, Lin Muyu could circulate the mental cultivation method of the forging dragon bone remnant scroll 72 times, after which she could feel the increase in her strength. However, Lin Muyu was cultivating in secret. She did not know that danger was approaching. Late at night, the Tong Tian Street's tavern street was dark. Big girl, chest trembling, swaying to the left, swaying to the right, making my heart sway. A messy and vulgar song came out of the drunken Zhang Wei's mouth. He held the railing with one hand and a wine pot with the other as he walked out of the tavern. He was drunk again today. In fact, this was also Zhang Wei's daily life. Zhang Wei loved alcohol as much as his life. It was his biggest weakness. There were not many people on the street. Suddenly, a murderous intent shrouded down from the sky. Who? Zhang Wei quickly sobered up from the shock, and with a shout, he finished the blessing of his martial soul. His body was covered in raging flames, and his fists danced in the air. Fists surrounded by flames exploded in the air, and he roared, "Get out here!" Zhang Wei's unique skill, Fiery Soul Fist. A loud laugh came from the sky. Zhang Wei's Fiery Soul Fist, it really has some of the style of Xiang Wen's Fiery Fist, but the level of fire is too far off. Kneel for me. A powerful invisible domain power descended, and the bricks of the city collapsed. Zhang Wei's fists immediately cracked, and his knees involuntarily knelt down. In the face of absolute power, he did not even have the chance to punch. Looking up, an old man appeared in front of him, but he did not recognize him. Who are you? I'm crippling your man. The person suddenly appeared behind Zhang Wei in a flash, and a sharp sword was unsheathed. Ah, in the middle of the night, a miserable howl echoed on Tong Tian Street. Chapter 81. Lord Lin Ji, wake up. A servant's voice came from outside the room. Lin Muyu woke up from his sleep, his aura swirling around him as he asked, "What's wrong?" "Something has happened to Lord Zhang Wei." Ah. After a shudder, Lin Muyu was no longer sleepy. He grabbed his clothes and rushed out of the room. Not far away, a cluster of torches flickered in the direction of the training hall. When he got closer, he saw Zhang Wei's bloodied body lying on a long stone at the side of the training hall. Lei Hong, Guiyang, and the other deacons of the Holy Temple were already there. What happened to Zhang Wei? Lin Muyu rushed forward and shook Zhang Wei's arm. He didn't move and checked if he was still breathing. He couldn't help but look up. What happened, Grandpa Lei Hong? Lei Hong's face was ashen as he said, Zhang Wei was attacked on Tongtian Street. You, look at the wound on Zhang Wei's back and you'll know. Two Iron Star instructors walked forward and lifted Zhang Wei's body, only to see that both sides of his spine had been completely minced by the sword qi. It was a bloody mess. Lin Muyu couldn't bear to look at it and turned his head. Who could be so cruel? Guiyang said with a trembling voice, the most cruel thing is not to kill, but to turn people into cripples. The dragon tendons on both sides of Zhang Wei's spine have been destroyed. Dragon tendons? He was stunned. Lei Hong said coldly, the dragon tendons are the two sides of the spine to exert force, just like the string of a longbow. Once the dragon tendons are destroyed, the cultivator's qi and qi will not be able to circulate throughout the body. This person didn't kill Zhang Wei, but turned him into a cripple who can no longer practice martial arts. What? Lin Muyu's eyes widened. Who is it? What do you think? Reiham said calmly, no matter what, Zhang Wei is an expert who is about to step into the heavenly realm. The person who can subdue Zhang Wei with one move is probably at least in the Saint Domain. After the Winter Ridge Rebellion hundreds of years ago, there were only a handful of Saint Domain experts in the Empire. I can more or less guess who it is. Guiyang said from the side, for now, the most important thing to do is to think of a way to save Zhang Wei. He is our Silver Star instructor, and is about to be promoted to Gold Star instructor. Once he becomes a cripple, his life will be over. Call the people from the spiritual medicine department over immediately. Not long after, a group of white-robed medical officers from the spirit medicine department entered the temple. They quickly stopped the bleeding and treated Zhang Xian's injuries. However, their progress did not seem to be very smooth. When the sun rose, the attendant of the spirit medicine department looked at Reiham apologetically and said, Lord Reiham, Zhang Wei's injuries are too severe. His dragon tendons have been completely shattered and cannot be healed. He can no longer practice martial arts. Reiham had already guessed that this would be the result. He sighed and smiled. Thank you all. It wasn't easy to save his life. The attendant of the spirit medicine department bowed and left. At this time, Zhang Wei woke up. He lay motionless on the bed, but his fierce eyes were fixed on Reiham. Chief attendant, Zhang Wei. Reham's body trembled. It's okay. You will be healed. Zhang Wei was surprisingly calm, but there was a trace of despair in his eyes. Chief attendant, you don't have to comfort me. I know I'm crippled. My dragon tendons have been severed. Even the gods can't save me. As he spoke, Zhang Wei looked at Lin Muyu and smiled. Lin Muyu walked forward and held onto the bed. Don't talk. Rest well. Zhang Wei smiled. I just want to remind you that there are two people who have offended the Divine Marquis residence. One is me, and I have already been avenged. The other is you. Lin Ji, don't underestimate your enemy. The person who ambushed me is very strong. I'm afraid his strength is comparable to chief attendant's. You must be careful. I, Zhang Wei, have a worthless life. No. Lin Muyu's voice was calm and determined. I can heal you. You, don't joke around. Reiham said. The dragon tendons are the foundation of a cultivator. Once they are severed, even the gods can't save you. Moreover, Zhang Wei's dragon tendons were not severed, but crushed. No, Grandpa Reiham, you must believe me. Lin Muyu's eyes were very clear. Zhang Wei, you must believe me too. Don't give up. I will definitely heal your dragon tendons and restore them to their original state. Zhang Wei did not know what he was thinking. He nodded and smiled. Then I'll have to trouble Master Lin Ji. Outside the door, Reiham said with some reproach. Even if you want to comfort Zhang Wei, you don't have to lie, right? No, I'm serious. Reiham turned around, his eyes filled with suspicion. How can you heal Zhang Wei's injuries? Grandpa Reiham, have you heard of a medicine called tendon replenishing powder? Lin Muyu asked seriously. Lei Hong was immediately startled. Gu Yang, who was standing to the side, stroked his beard and said, I've heard of a book in the Zhe Tian Hall's library. There's a level 10 medicine called the muscle replenishing powder that can regenerate muscles and bones, but this is only a legend. There hasn't been an alchemy god on this continent for hundreds of years, so who would have the ability to refine the muscle replenishing powder? Lin Muyu did not say much. Then give me some time. Yes. Reiham nodded. I'll allow you half a month's leave. Is that okay? Thank you, Grandpa Reiham. Go. He led a sturdy warhorse from the temple stable and galloped toward the trading center of Lanyan City. At the same time, he tried his best to recall the recipe for the tendon replenishing powder. Dragon tendon vine and luminous night grass were 2 level 10 medicinal herbs that were very rare. He would try his luck at the Empire's medicine shop. As he galloped, he called out, Lulu. Whoosh. The beautiful elven official flew out. She was still wearing a green dress that was as thin as a cicada's wings in the cold autumn weather. She smiled and said, Brother, what's the matter? Did you see dragon tendon vine and luminous night grass when you were drawing the map in the dragon-seeking forest? If you did, mark them on the map for me, okay? Lin Muyu said urgently. Lulu sat on his shoulder and shook her head. I haven't seen them. They're too rare. Also, Lulu's spiritual energy isn't enough to fly too far. Okay, I'll go ask myself. Not long after, Lin Muyu arrived at the Imperial Merchant Firm and immediately went to find Third Fatty Jean. Third Fatty Jean immediately beamed when he saw Lin Muyu. Master, are you going to buy some 7-colored lotuses again? I've already prepared them for you. No need. Lin Muyu shook her head and asked, Boss Jean, do you have dragon tendon vine and luminous night grass for sale? Third Fatty Jean was stunned. They're both level 10 medicinal herbs. Yes, do you have them? Third Fatty Jean said awkwardly, although there are all sorts of medicinal herbs in the Imperial Trading Center, we don't have the 2 that you want. It's said that dragon tendon vine only grows in the gaps in the spine of a dragon, and its fertilizer is dragon tendon. Luminous night grass is no different from other weeds. The only thing special about it is that it can emit light at night. We don't have either. Then, thank you, Lin Muyu felt a little lonely. She thought of Zhang Wei's miserable appearance. In a sense, Zhang Wei ended up like this because of her. Even if she had to do everything she could, she had to heal his crippled body. This was what a man should do. When he saw Lin Muyu's disappointed expression, Third Fatty Jean smiled. I heard that the Duke of Seven Seas residence has many precious medicinal herbs. Many of them were collected by Duke Kanglin's people. Master, you can try your luck at the Duke of Seven Seas residence. If you really can't find them. With your status as the Divine Palace's Golden Star, you should be able to go to the Zhe Tian Palace's Medicine Pavilion. You might be able to find them. Okay, thank you. Lin Muyu nodded, turned around and left the medicine shop. In less than 10 minutes, the warhorse stopped in front of the Duke of Seven Seas residence. Lin Muyu dismounted and carried the burning prairie sword on her back. She cupped her fists at the guards and said, Divine Palace's Lin Ji requests an audience with Princess Shi. Please help me pass the message. One of the guards nodded respectfully and returned not long after entering the residence. He performed an empire's military salute and said, Lord Lin Ji, the princess invites you in. She's waiting for you in the front hall. Thank you. The Duke of Seven Seas residence was like a large garden. It made Lin Muyu feel like he was entering a tiger hill. There were guards all along the way, as if to show off the strength of the Seven Seas City's army. The front hall was not far away. When he arrived, Tang Xiaoxi had already walked out in a beautiful red and white dress. Her little boots stepped on the red maple leaves on the ground. She smiled and said, "Mu, you finally saw me?" Looking at Tang Xiaoxi's happy and beautiful face, he was a little embarrassed. He scratched his head and said, "Xiaoxi, I actually came here with a request." "Humph, I knew it." "Say it, what's the matter?" Tang Xiaoxi was not unhappy at all. "I heard that the Duke of Seven Seas' residence has stored many precious medicinal herbs. I especially need 2 kinds of medicinal herbs now. I wonder if Xiaoxi can help," he said very awkwardly. Tang Xiaoxi blinked her beautiful eyes and said, "Actually, I'm not very clear about the classification of the medicinal herbs in the residence. But since you need them, let's go and take a look." Tang Xiaoxi reached out and pulled him into the depths of the residence. They found the official in charge of safekeeping in the medicinal herb storehouse. In the end, after looking through the records for a long time, they couldn't find the 2 medicinal herbs. Lin Muyu felt a little disappointed and her brows furrowed. "Do you need these 2 medicinal herbs urgently?" Tang Xiaoxi asked with concern. To save my life." Lin Muyu murmured, "The medicinal essence of the dragon tendon vine and luminous night grass, as well as the blood of the needlepoint bird, can be refined into a level 10 medicine called tendon replenishment powder. The greatest effect of tendon replenishment powder is to regenerate the muscles and bones. It has the effect of almost bringing the dead back to life." Tang Xiaoxi's eyes widened. You're doing this to save Zhang Wei, aren't you?" Lin Muyu did not deny it. She looked deeply at Tang Xiaoxi and said, "Zhang Wei is my friend. He was killed because he went with me to investigate the case of Little Beansprout's parents. Now that Zhang Wei's tendons have been crushed by a mysterious expert, I have no reason to stand by and do nothing." Tang Xiaoxi clasped her hands in front of her and suddenly smiled. "Although we can find the dragon tendon vine and luminous night grass in the Duke of Seven Seas' residence, but we still have a place to try our luck. Who knows, there might be some." "What place?" "The medicine pavilion of Zetian Palace." Tang Xiaoxi was smiling brightly in the slight autumn wind, and the bow knot on her hair was like a fiery red butterfly. Chapter 82. When it was close to noon, 2 warhorses stopped outside the palace gates of Zetian Palace. Tang Xiaoxi dismounted and walked forward with Lin Muyu. A group of imperial guards also came forward to greet them. "Princess Shi." A imperial guard respectfully greeted. Tang Xiaoxi said, "Please help me pass a message to Her Highness Yin. Tell her that Tang Xiaoxi requests an audience with her." "Yes." The imperial guard quickly mounted his horse and rode for a full 10 minutes before returning. He cupped his fists together and said, "Her Highness Yin is practicing archery in Phoenix Perching Palace. Let me bring Princess Shi and Lin Ji there." Many thanks." They quickly mounted their horses and galloped all the way to the imperial palace. This was Lin Muyu's first time entering Zetian Palace, and it was an indescribable novelty to her. Inside Zetian Palace, the white jade floor shimmered with a luster. In the distance, there were palaces shrouded in mist. Floating windows carved from blue tiles shone with the luster of crystal and jade. Every 10 steps, there was a sentry post of the Imperial Guard. Not only was this place as rich as a mountain of gold and a sea of jade, but the security here was also extraordinarily tight. After passing through palace after palace, they finally arrived at Phoenix Perching Palace. This was Qin Yin's residence. The continuous palace terrace left Lin Muyu speechless. It was too luxurious. She lived in such a large house by herself. She originally thought that living in a villa in the real world was already considered luxurious, but compared to Qin Yin's residence, it was simply simple and unadorned. Outside of Phoenix Perching Palace was a martial arts practice field. Amidst the clattering of horse hooves, eldest Princess Qin Yin rode a fine horse in a golden cloak. She held a very exquisite bow in her hand, and the golden power of the god-binding chain surrounded her. She let go of the reins in her left hand and drew the bow with both hands, aiming at a target in the distance. Pa! With a soft sound, the arrow hit the bull's eye. Immediately, the maid at the side smiled and said, "Your Highness, good archery." But at this moment, Qin Yin turned her eyes to another place. She jumped off the horse and ran straight to Tang Xiaoxi and Lin Muyu, letting her gold-rimmed boots step on the gravel ground. "Xiao Shi, you're finally here." Tang Xiaoxi held the reins and said with a smile, "Xiao Yin, Mu and I are here for some business. Take us to the medicine pavilion. Mu is in urgent need of 2 level 10 herbs. You must help him." Qin Yin was startled. Her gaze landed on Lin Muyu. She smiled and said, "Since that's the case, let's go to the hidden medicine pavilion. I know the manager there, so you can freely enter and exit." Yes, yes. When the 3 of them arrived at the hidden medicine pavilion, they could indeed freely enter and exit. After all, Qin Yin's beautiful face was already a pass. She was the beloved daughter of the radiant prince, Qin Jin. She had awakened the god-binding lock marshal's soul at a young age, establishing her position as the successor of the empire. Even Qin Jin and the previous emperor had not awakened the god-binding lock, but among the younger generation of the Qin clan, Qin Yin and Qin Lei had already awakened the god-binding lock. They were known as a generation full of hope. But unfortunately, the 3 of them almost went through the hidden medicine pavilion's name list, but they still could not find the dragon tendon vine and luminous night grass. At this time, the manager at the side said carefully, "Your Highness, these 2 herbs have disappeared for many years. They are not in the hidden medicine pavilion either." This humble servant heard that there is a place in the depths of the dragon-seeking forest called the Dragon's Tomb. That is the burial ground of the dragon clan. If we can find the dragon's tomb, I'm afraid we can get as many dragon tendon vines as we want. It's just that the depths of the dragon-seeking forest are too dangerous, so the alchemists are unable to reach there. Is that so? Qin Yin blinked her eyes that were as deep as the starry sky. She smiled and said, "Then why not?" Lin Muyu suddenly had a bad feeling. In the end, Tang Xiaoxi immediately responded with a smile, "Why don't we take the opportunity to go to the dragon-seeking forest?" At the side, the commander of the Imperial Guards, Feng Jixing, retorted sternly, "Nonsense. Even I don't know where the dragon's tomb is. Moreover, you should know very well how dangerous the dragon-seeking forest is. One of you is the heir of the Qin clan, and the other is the princess of the 7 Seas Tang sect. Your identities are so special. Stop fooling around. You must not go to the dragon-seeking forest." As he said that, Feng Jixing glared at the manager of the hidden medicine pavilion and said, "I will not report the matter of you encouraging His Highness to go to the dragon-seeking forest for now. If it happens again, your head will definitely be removed." The manager hurriedly knelt and begged for mercy, "Lord Commander, please spare my life. I didn't do it on purpose. Don't kneel before me. I'm so young, I can't take it. Hurry up and get up. Otherwise, my saber will drink blood, yes." At the side, Lin Muyu smiled and said, "Big brother Feng, don't scare me like that." Feng Jixing could not help but laugh. "I was pretending to be so serious, but you still managed to see through me." At this moment, Qin Yin had already turned around and left the hidden medicine pavilion with Tang Xiaoxi. As she mounted her horse, Feng Jixing hurriedly chased after her and asked loudly, "Your Highness, what are you going to do?" "Greetings, Father. I've already reached the level 59 bottleneck. I'm going to the dragon-seeking forest to train and break through." Feng Jixing complained incessantly. He had really poked a hornet's nest this time. This capricious princess of the empire was going to the dragon-seeking forest again. Nothing good ever came out of it, and this time would most likely not be an exception. The Zetian Palace was resplendent and magnificent. It was close to noon, and the emperor, Qin Jin, was holding a banquet for his officials. The Minister of War, the Ministry of Justice, as well as the commanders of the various armies that lived in the imperial capital were all present. Qin Jin held a jade cup in his hand and said with a smile, "Come, come, come. My subjects, let's have a toast together." Everyone held their cups with both hands and treated it like a precious treasure. If anyone were to spill the wine bestowed by the emperor, it was possible that their heads would roll on the ground. At this moment, the eunuch outside announced loudly, "Her Highness Qin Yin has arrived. Commander Feng Jixing has arrived. Princess Tang Xiaoxi has arrived. And that brat, who are you? You're not allowed to enter. Imperial guards, take him down. Imperial guards, stand down. This is my friend." Qin Yin's voice rang out. Qin Jin couldn't help but put down his cup, a helpless expression on his face. He loved and hated this daughter of his. He loved her excellence and beauty, and hated her willfulness and unruliness. However, perhaps love was 99%, and hatred was only 1%. This was the feelings a father had for his daughter. He raised his head and said, "Let them in. Men, prepare a seat for Her Highness Yin." Qin Yin had already entered the palace wearing the cloak of the Qin clan. She smiled and said, "Imperial father." The clear and sweet voice immediately made Qin Jin lose the mood to even be angry. She said in an amused and annoyed tone, "Xiao Yin, what's wrong with you now? You're already a 20-year-old lady. Shouldn't you learn to be more dignified? You're the heir of the clan. Feng Jixing, tell me, what is she trying to do?" Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said respectfully, "Your Majesty, Her Highness, she said that she wants to enter the dragon-seeking forest again to train and seek to break through to the heaven realm. This general thinks that this is inappropriate. The dragon-seeking forest is too dangerous." Qin Yin glanced at Feng Jixing, the general meaning of her gaze saying that he still had some conscience and didn't mention the matter of the dragon tomb. Otherwise, Imperial Father definitely wouldn't allow it. "Oh, you're going to the dragon-seeking forest again?" Qin Jin couldn't help but smile. "It hasn't been too long since we went to the dragon-seeking forest." "Xiao Yin, why do you want to go again?" Qin Yin pouted and raised her palm. A golden chain coiled around her graceful body like a real dragon. She walked forward step by step and said with a smile, "Imperial Father, look, your daughter's god-binding chains has already been cultivated to the limit of the 5th level. If I don't experience a battle to break through, I'm afraid I'll become a piece of trash." "Nonsense, how can the god-binding chains be trash?" Qin Jin's tone was a bit stricter, but when he saw Qin Yin's red eyes and aggrieved expression, his heart immediately softened. He said, "Go then, but you can only go within the boundaries of the clan's hunting grounds." "How can that be?" Qin Yin raised her face to look at her father on the throne. "The spirit beasts in the hunting grounds are too weak. Even if I kill them, they won't help me break through. Imperial Father, just allow me to enter the depths of the dragon-seeking forest to cultivate." "You," Qin Jin sighed helplessly and asked, "My subjects, Her Highness wants to enter the dragon-seeking forest to cultivate. Who do you think is the most suitable person to send to protect her?" The minister stood up and said, "Your Majesty, Lord Qin Lei, the son of King Yuning and the commander of the Imperial Army, is quite strong. Moreover, he grew up with Her Highness and can be considered to be childhood sweethearts. It is most suitable for him to lead an elite troop to escort Her Highness to cultivate." Qin Jin nodded. Do you have any other suggestions?" Another minister stood up and said, "Your Majesty, this humble subject suggests that the commander of the Imperial Army, Feng Jixing, also lead 1,000 elite cavalry from the Imperial Army to go with her. After all, Her Highness is the crown prince and the heir of the clan. Her safety must be guaranteed. It is a pity that only the 2 of the 6 white-robed Imperial Guards can be dispatched at any time. Lei Hong is in charge of the Divine Hall and can't split himself up. Chu Chu, on the other hand, has nothing better to do. Otherwise, it would be best for Lord Chu Chu to escort Her Highness." Qin Jin smiled slightly. "Then it is decided. Commander Feng Jixing, you will lead 2,000 elite cavalry from the Imperial Army to escort the princess to the dragon-seeking forest. Qin Lei, You will lead 100 Imperial Guards to protect Her Highness at all times. Do you all understand? Feng Jixing and Qin Lei knelt on one knee and cupped their fists. As you command. In the afternoon, the people outside the Zetian Palace were shouting and the horses neighing. A total of over 2,000 troops set out together, heading straight for the dragon-seeking forest. Qin Yin was filled with helplessness. She had originally thought that she could train in the dragon-seeking forest with Tang Xiaoxi and Lin Muyu. She had never thought that it would soon become an attack by the entire army. However, she could not do anything about it. After all, as the heir of the clan, this might be the price to pay for being above the masses. Qin Lei and Feng Jixing wore the armor of the white-robed Imperial Guards and looked very spirited. They guarded Qin Yin on her left and right, while Tang Xiaoxi spurred her horse and walked side by side with Lin Muyu. In front of them, a group of light cavalry acted as sentries and left the city in a grandiose manner. Even Lin Muyu did not have the time to return to the Divine Hall to pack her luggage. However, as long as she had the Burning Prairie sword, she would not need anything else. After sunset, they entered the dragon-seeking forest. As they were still at the periphery of the dragon-seeking forest, everyone was more relaxed. However, the night sky was filled with stars and the sounds of the insects coming from the forest made them feel more relaxed and happy. Next to the white tent, Lin Muyu carried the Burning Prairie sword and stepped into the bushes. She looked around but did not see any luminous herbs. It was impossible for there to be luminous night grass at such a close distance to Lanyan City. Chapter 83. Deep into the night, a bolt of lightning broke the silence in the forest. Following that, heavy rain began to fall from the sky. It was not easy to have such heavy rain in late autumn. Lin Muyu put on her armor, opened a black umbrella, and walked out of the resting tent with the Burning Prairie sword in hand. Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin's tents were further away, guarded by Qin Lei and Feng Jixing. The rain landed on the oil paper umbrella with pitter-patter. The stars could no longer be seen in the sky, and the bonfire on the ground was also struggling in the rain. Many Imperial Army soldiers wanted to keep the bonfire alive, but they had no way to do so. It was a mess for a moment. Many people who were patrolling outside on horseback also quickly rushed over and hid in the tents. Lord Lin Ji. Not far away, an Imperial Army soldier smiled and asked, "Why are you standing in the rain alone with an umbrella? Quick, come into the tent to hide from the rain. Otherwise, you might get sick if you get wet." Lin Ji shook his head and smiled, "There's no need. Thank you. I'll take a look around." He was a Gold Star member of the Divine Sanctum. Even among these Imperial Army soldiers, he was already an influential figure. Moreover, he was familiar with Feng Jixing and Qin Lei. Therefore, Lin Muyu was rather free in the camp. The rain pitter-pattered and extinguished the last bonfire. As a result, the forest had already become dark. Clang! Drawing the Burning Prairie sword, he exhaled a small amount of vital energy from his palm and infused it into the sword. Immediately, streams of raging flames that could not be extinguished by the rain surrounded the sword, illuminating a small distance. He walked around the camp step by step. He had to ensure that there were no enemies in the surroundings. After all, it was because of him that Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin had come to the Dragon Forest. If anything were to happen to these two pearls of the Empire, he would definitely feel guilty for the rest of his life. The tent is leaking. Quick, find some wide leaves. It was unknown who shouted, but many of the Imperial Guards rushed into the forest to cut down the trees. At this moment, there was a sudden rustling sound from the right. Lin Muyu immediately turned around in alarm. Raising the Burning Prairie sword, she lit up the dark corner and shouted, "Who is it?" Don't speak." In the darkness, a beautiful face peeled off the hood. It was none other than Qin Yin. However, she was wearing the armor of an Imperial Guard. Her lips curled up into a smile as she asked, "What's wrong, you? Do I look strange?" "Your Highness, why are you dressed like this?" "If I don't dress like this, how can I sneak away? She giggled, her beauty unmatched. Slip away? Hurry up, Xiaoxi is waiting for us in front. Qin Yin once again lifted her cloak to cover her face. Her dark golden royal cloak was airtight. It seemed like it could also shelter her from the rain. Lin Muyu was confused. She had to hold the umbrella for her with one hand and the Liao Yuan's sword with the other to light the way. Qin Yin raised her head and saw that Lin Muyu was drenched, but she was covering her head with an umbrella. Qin Yin couldn't help but smile warmly, but she didn't say anything. She knew that as the princess of the empire, saying too much would only make her look pretentious. You guys are so slow. Further ahead, beside a pile of shrubbery, Tang Xiaoxi's voice came. She was also wearing the armor of an imperial guard, which made her exquisite figure look a little funny. Furthermore, she was leading 3 fine horses. She said with a smile, you guys are too slow. Humph, next time don't let me steal horses. I was almost kicked by this fierce warhorse. Lin Muyu already knew what they wanted to do. She couldn't help but say, isn't it a little inappropriate for us to sneak away like this? Big brother Feng Jixing and big brother Qin Lei will definitely go crazy looking for you. It's fine. I left a letter in the tent. Qin Yin smiled with dimples. It's so dark, where are we going? Lin Muyu asked. Qin Yin muttered to herself as she pondered. The mist formed by the autumn rain landed on her long eyelashes and quickly condensed into droplets of dew. They trembled and fell one after another, adding a sense of harmony to this beauty. However, she didn't notice it. She raised her head with a smile and said, let's head south and avoid the marching route of the large army. We'll take a detour into the depths of the dragon-seeking forest. Don't say anything else. Get on the horses and find a place to rest before dawn. Amen. Lin Muyu nodded. This was the only way. The 3 of them turned around and mounted their horses, heading straight south. In the end, after galloping for less than half an hour, a ray of golden light suddenly shot through the darkness behind them. It seemed to be the light of the god binding chains. Your Highness. Qin Lei's voice came. It was indeed him. He had actually caught up. Don't run. Qin Lei shouted loudly. He suddenly raised the martial spirit in his hand and the god-binding chains broke through the earth with a peng-peng-peng sound, blocking in front of Qin Yin. However, Qin Yin wasn't someone who was easy to deal with. She lightly opened her snow-white palm and the same god-binding chains came out from her body, defeating Qin Lei's martial spirit one after another. She turned around and said with a smile, Big brother Qin Lei, don't chase us anymore. Go back and wait for us. We'll be back in a few days. No. Qin Lei said with no room for negotiation, His Majesty sent me to protect you. I definitely can't leave even half a step. Qin Yin clenched her teeth, humph. You follow me every day. Don't you know how annoying it is? There's no freedom at all. Do you understand this kind of feeling? You big idiot. Qin Lei was an extremely simple and honest youth. He urged his horse forward and didn't open an umbrella, allowing the rain to fall on his body. He rubbed his head and said with a smile, I can more or less understand this kind of feeling. However, Xiao Yin, you are too important to the empire. There can't be a single mishap. I can indulge you in everything, but this is the only thing I absolutely cannot give in to. As he spoke, Qin Lei raised his sword-like eyebrows and looked at Lin Muyu, saying, You brat should help me persuade her. Lin Muyu looked towards Qin Yin, but before he could say anything, Qin Yin blocked him with a sentence, If you treat me, Qin Yin, as a friend, then don't persuade me. I hate being stared at by a group of people all day. Tang Xiaoxi laughed lightly, taking pleasure in other people's misfortune. Lin Muyu rubbed his nose and said, Your Highness, why don't we do this? Let big brother Qin Lei follow us alone. It'll be safer for the 4 of us to enter the depths of the dragon-seeking forest to train, right? Yes, you is right. Qin Lei looked at Lin Muyu gratefully, then said, "I'll go with you all alone. I won't bring any men and horses." "Your Highness, this should be fine, right?" Qin Yin's small and exquisite nose was slightly raised. She huffed angrily and said, "Then follow us, but you all have to listen to me along the way. You're not allowed to use Father Emperor to pressure me, or else you'll go back immediately." Qin Lei felt as if he'd been granted amnesty. All right, I'll definitely listen to you." Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi looked at each other and smiled. In the end, the adventuring this time went from 3 people to 4 people. That was good too. Qin Lei's strength was the strongest among the 4. With him around, it would be a bit safer. Traveling 100 miles in the night, they encountered a few spirit beasts below 1,000 years old, but they were all easily taken care of by Lin Muyu and Qin Lei. Qin Lei had seen Lin Muyu's 4-elemental imperial sword at the last Eve festival banquet, so he admired this handsome youth very much. So even though there was a great disparity between their statuses, he was still very polite along the way. The rain stopped, and the sky brightened. Sunlight fell on their bodies. Qin Yin rode on a warhorse, her whole body enshrouded in a faint fiery light. Unknowingly, she'd already used the god-binding lock's fiery strength to dry the clothes on her body. Tang Xiaoxi's martial spirit was a fire fox, so she could naturally do it easily as well. As for Lin Muyu and Qin Lei, it wasn't so troublesome. The fiery energy of their virgin bodies was enough to dry their clothes. The 3 took a roundabout route south, and after a day, they finally entered the depths of the dragon-seeking forest. In the afternoon, the lazy sunlight shone on every part of the forest. Qin Lei held a map scroll in his hand, looked at it carefully for a while, then said, "According to the records on the map, we still need to travel south for about 3 days, and we'll be able to reach the legendary dragon graveyard area. However, that place is a forbidden area, and the spirit beasts on the way are also quite strong. It's said that it's been a long time since anyone has entered that place alive." Tang Xiaoxi's fire fox martial spirit was jumping on her fragrant shoulder. She giggled and said, "It doesn't matter. We have a total of 4 people this time. Big brother Qin Lei is in the heaven realm, and the rest are all in the earth realm. However, as long as we meet a suitable spirit beast, Xiao Yin and Mu can both step into the heaven realm. At that time, our overall strength will be even stronger, and it won't matter even if we meet a spirit beast." Qin Lei nodded. Holding a warblade that flickered with lightning, he urged his horse to walk at the very front. This blade had quite a history. It was called the Thunder Split Blade, and it was said to be a mysterious great treasured blade. Prince Yuning had gone through a lot of trouble to get his hands on it, and in the end, he gave it to his eldest son, Qin Lei. It also made Qin Lei one of the few experts in the imperial city, so much so that when the Thunder Split Blade was mentioned in the imperial city, they would definitely think of Qin Lei, and when Qin Lei was mentioned, they would definitely not forget his Thunder Split Blade. "What kind of martial spirit does you need?" Seeing that Lin Muyu had been silently hurrying along, Qin Yin tilted her head, smiled, and asked in a gentle voice. Lin Muyu was startled, and a little overwhelmed by the favor. In fact, he had seen countless beautiful women in his original world, but none of those women could be mentioned in the same breath as Qin Yin. The Qin Yin in front of him, whether it was in terms of temperament or appearance, surpassed him by too much. That kind of celestial beauty, that kind of luxurious beauty, was not something that common rouge and powder could compare with. A plant-type spirit beast is fine, and it's also fine if it's not. My martial spirit isn't picky. Thank you for your concern, Your Highness. Qin Yin couldn't help giggling, and said, "A martial spirit that isn't picky? You is really interesting." Just at this time, Qin Lei suddenly raised his arm in front of them, and said in a low voice, "I'm afraid that the spirit beast that isn't picky has already arrived. Everyone be careful, there's a spirit beast 300 meters to our north, with a lifespan of at least 5,000 years. 5,000 years? Not only was Qin Yin not worried, she even revealed a trace of excitement. Raising her hand, she drew the sword at her waist, and said with a smile, "Then let's prepare to make our move. Wait first." Qin Lei's expression was extremely grave, and said, "It's a stone beast, its surface is even harder than stone, and its strength is extremely great. Moreover, a 5,000-year-old stone beast is even more not to be underestimated. You, prepare to attack together with me. With your martial spirit's defense, it's even more convenient to deal with this kind of stone beast." Lin Muyu drew her long sword, and said cheerfully, "N." Chapter 84. Roar. 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 A huge rock that seemed to be grayish-white was entrenched in the middle of the valley. It was as big as a disc, but upon closer inspection, one could discover that the surface of the rock was actually made up of rock scales. This was a stone beast that was curled up together. Furthermore, it seemed to have discovered the scent of humans as its body slowly moved and let out a low roar. Qin Lei held the thunder-split blade tightly and looked at Lin Muyu, saying, I have also encountered a stone beast when I was training in the wild in the past, but it was only 1,800 years old. You must not underestimate the strength of the stone beast. Its movements are very agile, and its claws are sharp. One strike is enough to break a 10-centimeter thick heavy shield. Furthermore, the rock scales on its surface are very thick, and normal attacks cannot break it. Later, you will attract the stone beast, and I will attack. How about it? Lin Muyu waved her palm lightly, and the gourd martial spirit came out of her body, condensing into the black tortoise shell and dragon scale wall. She nodded and said, I will go first. Big brother Qin Lei, you have to be careful. You be careful too. Lin Muyu actually had an indescribable feeling of excitement in her heart. This time, the four of them came out to train together, and it was true that her defensive ability was the strongest. Therefore, she naturally took on the role of MT. The responsibilities of attracting aggro, taunting the opponent, and taking damage fell onto her. However, this was not a game. Once the team was annihilated, it meant death. There was no chance to revive and start over. Roar. The huge rock slowly began to shake. The huge disc separated into a head and a tail, and the head that was entrenched at the tail suddenly raised up. It was the face of an evil beast. It suddenly opened its bloody mouth and pounced towards Lin Muyu. This stone beast's body was at least a few dozen tons in weight. When it moved, the earth and mountains shook, but its movement speed was definitely not slow. Lin Muyu saw it clearly. Her left hand spun around her waist and grabbed the demon noise blade. She spat out her true energy and threw the demon noise blade out. Shio! This hidden weapon carried a sharp whistling sound as it rushed towards the weak point of the stone beast's head, its eyes. Roar! Unexpectedly, this big fellow was so agile that it actually moved its head to avoid the injury to its eyes. Instead, it turned its forehead to collide with the demonic noise blade. With a dang sound, sparks flew in all directions as the demonic noise blade was sent flying. From afar, Lin Muyu unleashed a demonic noise fist to control the direction of the demonic noise blade. At the same time, she gripped her sword with her right hand and let out a low grunt. Streaks of lightning crackled around her arm. Just as the stone beast was about to pounce on her, she abruptly threw out the burning prairie sword, Thunderous Frenzy. Pung! With a heavy strike, half of the blade pierced into the stone beast's lower jaw, but it didn't seem to bleed. The stone beast's rock scales were at least a meter thick, so this strike didn't cause any serious damage. In the blink of an eye, the stone beast swung its sharp claws and pounced down. On its left arm, there were a total of 3 blade-like claws, and they rapidly slammed into the wall of Lin Muyu's gourd. With a peng sound, energy splashed in all directions. Lin Muyu also rapidly retreated a few steps, her face somewhat pale. With just one attack, the black tortoise shell showed signs of breaking. Hold on. Qin Lei raised the thunder-split blade and let out a violent roar as he rushed onto the stone beast's body. Both of his hands gripped the long blade, and the god-binding chains wrapped around the blade. A golden light flourished as he heavily struck down. Pung! Stone fragments flew everywhere, and the stone beast immediately let out an angry roar. A large hole had been opened on its back, and even some blood could be seen spurting out. Roar! The stone beast suddenly opened its mouth, as if it was going to swallow Lin Muyu. Huh! Lin Muyu was startled, and she hastily retreated with the falling star steps. She opened her right hand, and lightning controlled the burning prairie sword in the air. She suddenly lowered her arm, and the burning prairie sword suddenly struck down from above, carrying the power of a thunderous frenzy. A loud sound was heard as it bombarded the stone beast's upper jaw, and it immediately closed its wide-open mouth. Its entire head heavily smashed onto the wall of the gourd. Woo-woo! Lin Muyu let out a miserable groan. The outermost layer of defense, the black tortoise shell, was finally broken. The blood and qi in her body surged, and she was unable to summon her true qi to condense the black tortoise shell again in a short period of time. She could only open her arm, and spit out her true qi. The orange light of her martial spirit blossomed, and a gourd flower bloomed. Puchi! A mouthful of poisonous liquid fell onto the stone beast's forehead like an arrow, and rapidly penetrated and corroded it. However, the stone beast's skin was too thick, and there was nothing that could be done to it in a short period of time. Beautifully done, you! Qin Lei brandished the thunder-split blade, and streaks of lightning burst forth and fiercely struck the back of the stone beast. He was the most dangerous person. However, right at this moment, Tang Xiaoxi held the fire fox martial spirit in her hand, and loudly said, "Big brother Qin Lei, be careful." What? As soon as Qin Lei turned around, he saw a black shadow flash over. Pung! That was the sweeping attack of the stone beast's tail. Under the violent and powerful attack, it immediately sent this commander of the imperial army flying, falling straight into the distant forest. However, Qin Lei's cultivation had after all already stepped into the heaven realm. His voice quickly came from there, "I'm fine. You have to hold on." Huff, 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 the stone beast snorted, and a bit of blood had already seeped into its pair of eyes. Its blood-red pupils stared fixedly at Lin Muyu, and both of its claws flew about. In an instant, it pounced on her several times, blasting the dragon's scale wall to the point of almost collapsing. However, Lin Muyu did not have much of a way to deal with this big guy. After all, his martial spirit specialized in defense, and even the destructive power of the four-elemental imperial sword was far from being able to compare to Qin Lei, who had the support of the god-binding shackles. Mu, be careful. Tang Xiaoxi launched an attack from the flank, and the fire fox cried out loudly. However, her penetrative power was too weak, and practically did not make the stone beast feel any pain, so it naturally ignored her. This angered Tang Xiaoxi to the point of whimpering. The feeling of not having any sense of existence made the proud princess Xi a little unable to bear it. The true qi in her body was becoming more and more unable to be quickly activated. Just as Lin Muyu was feeling anxious, rays of golden light suddenly appeared around her body, and Qin Yin's voice came from behind, "God-binding power." This was Qin Yin's martial spirit skill, and could also be considered as a support skill, increasing the target's attack power. "Attack, you!" she said while breathing rapidly. It seemed that releasing the god-binding power had already consumed a lot of her strength. When the god-binding power entered her body, Lin Muyu could clearly feel the surging power in her blood vessels, and a feeling that she had to spit it out was on the verge of bursting out. She lightly raised her arm, and the black tortoise shell actually condensed again. True qi surged around her body, and she grabbed the spinning demonic noise blade and threw it out again. At the same time, she lightly released her right hand, and the burning prairie sword lightly flew up. Flames spouted out from her palm, and lingered around the burning prairie sword. The blade of the sword quickly spun, using fire to manipulate the sword. Furthermore, she used the true dragon essence fire this time. The dazzling purple flames lingered around the long sword, causing Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi to be a little shocked. They had never seen flames like this before. Dragon flame spiral break. She exerted force with both hands, and immediately the high-speed spinning burning prairie sword smashed into the stone beast's head like an invincible iron awl. The true dragon essence fire quickly melted the stone beast's scales, and with a bang, it blasted a large hole in the stone beast's head. Grayish-white brain matter could faintly be seen. Good heavens, this attack was really ruthless. But what shocked Lin Muyu was that the stone beast's vitality was too tenacious. It seemed to be completely fine even after its head had been blasted open. With a roar, it pounced forward, and with a swipe of its claws, it directly shattered the black tortoise shell. Lin Muyu raised her hand to grab the burning prairie sword, and hurriedly pressed her left hand against the blade to block the stone beast's next attack. It was also at this moment that a beautiful figure appeared beside him. Qin Yin carried a long sword and stood shoulder to shoulder with him. God-binding shackles surged around her. With a shout, the god-binding shackles slashed out together with the long sword. Pung! What a good Qin Yin! She actually relied on the tyrannical strength of the god-binding chains to slash back the stone beast's sharp claws. At this time, Qin Lei raised the thunder-split saber and charged over again. A slash landed on the stone beast's neck from midair, and stone fragments splashed everywhere. He loudly said, "Shao Yin, you, Shao Shi, all of you fall back. Let me do it." The stone beast was still roaring, but after being continuously slashed 7 or 8 times by Qin Lei, its roars became weaker and weaker. With a crack, its bones broke, and its entire head separated from its body. No matter how strong its vitality was, it was unable to continue fighting without a head. After all, it was a stone beast, not called Xing Tian. Huff, huff, the stone beast's head that fell to the ground was still breathing with all its might, while its body lay on the ground, continuously struggling frantically. F***ck, Lin Muyu held the burning prairie sword with lingering fear in her heart. She turned around to look at Qin Yin, and asked with concern, "Are you all right?" Who would have thought that Qin Yin would also ask the same thing? The two of them spoke at the same time. In the next moment, Her Highness the Princess lowered her head with a flushed face. She didn't know what to say to get past this awkwardness. Luckily, Qin Lei was more straightforward. He leaped down from the stone beast's corpse, and said with a smile, "Luckily, Yu's defense is strong enough. Otherwise, we might be in danger." This time, it was really not easy to kill this 50-100-year stone beast without any injuries. "Your Highness, what are you still hesitating for? I remember that your god-binding chains only has 3 abilities, and none of them are defense type. Come, this stone beast's defense is so strong. If you can absorb the stone beast's defense type ability, it will definitely greatly increase your individual strength." Tang Xiaoxi also said with a smile, "That's right. Shao Yin, hurry up and refine the beast spirit. Who knows, you might be able to successfully step into the heaven realm." Amen. Qin Yin was no longer embarrassed to the point of blushing. She took a step forward, and with a light chant, she summoned the god-binding chains. This golden chain was like a real dragon, coiling around the young lady's waist and between her twin peaks. It was like a guardian, but also like an attacker. It began to madly and greedily absorb and refine the stone beast's beast spirit. This stone beast's beast spirit could actually be refined by herself, but Lin Muyu didn't care. There were many spirit beasts in the dragon-seeking forest, so there was no hurry. Letting Qin Yin become stronger would be of great benefit to the entire adventurer team. Qin Yin closed her beautiful eyes, controlling the god-binding chains to enjoy this delicious meal. However, the stone beast's beast spirit was still very tenacious. No matter how hard Qin Yin tried, she was still unable to grasp the beast spirit's most essential part. Qin Yin also knew that this power contained the stone beast's most essential spiritual power, which was also the ability power. Therefore, she had to absorb this portion of the beast spirit. Unfortunately, this seemed to be too difficult. Not long after, Her Highness the Princess was already drenched in fragrant sweat. I can't do it anymore," she suddenly said. Chapter 85. Do you need help? Lin Muyu sheathed his long sword and asked calmly from the side. Qin Lei was stunned. You can help? As far as I know, the process of refining the beast spirit is not something that others can interfere with, right? Xiao Yin. If you really can't refine the skill, then don't force yourself, otherwise you will hurt your body. Tang Xiaoxi crossed her arms in front of her chest and said, if Mu can help, then don't hesitate. Lin Muyu walked to Qin Yin's side and a faint fragrance of a young girl entered his nose. His heart couldn't help but sway, but he immediately reprimanded himself in his heart. What am I thinking about, you bastard? Is this the time to let your imagination run wild? I can't keep thinking about petty things all day long. We must be honest and be a person who is free from vulgar interests. Lin Ji, you better remember, you are an honest and confident young man. Thinking of that, his face turned red. His palm opened slightly and his true qi surged. The treasured refining cauldron shrouded down in the form of energy and quickly enveloped Qin Yin and himself. But from Qin Lei and Tang Xiaoxi's point of view, the energy that Lin Muyu summoned was a kind of true qi energy condensed body, and they couldn't see the specific form of the treasured refining cauldron. Closing his eyes, the first layer of true fire inside the treasured refining cauldron started to burn, refining the last strand of beast spirit of the stone beast. Qin Yin also seemed to feel it as her long eyelashes lightly trembled, but she didn't dare to be distracted in the crucial process of refining the beast spirit. Lin Muyu said softly, Your Highness doesn't need to be distracted, concentrate on absorbing and leave the rest to me. Inside the treasured refining cauldron, the beast spirit of the stone beast was howling miserably as it was refined by the first layer of true fire. But this beast spirit was really too tenacious. It was still unable to be refined even after being refined for a full 5 minutes. Lin Muyu made up his mind and suddenly shouted, activating the second layer of flames of the treasured refining cauldron, Extreme Fire. The so-called Extreme Fire was a flame that came from the sky and was very fierce. It was ranked second among the 18 layers of flames of the treasured refining cauldron. Although it was ranked lower, it was already very powerful at this time because Lin Muyu had only comprehended the third layer of flames. If the third layer of flames couldn't refine the beast spirit, then there was nothing he could do. Ao. Amidst the miserable howls, the extreme fire quickly devoured the beast spirit of the stone beast, refining it into bits and pieces of spiritual essence, which seeped into Qin Yin's body one by one and was absorbed by the princess. Lin Muyu heaved a sigh of relief and quickly removed the treasure refining cauldron. However, she noticed that both her and Qin Yin's bodies were emitting steam. It seemed like the temperature inside the treasure refining cauldron was not just for show. Qin Yin let out a breath. When she opened her eyes, Lin Muyu and Qin Lei were both stunned. At this time, the expression in Qin Yin's eyes was even more enchanting. Her gaze was deep and the strange expression was as beautiful as the shining stars. Moreover, her entire temperament seemed to have changed a little. It actually made Lin Muyu feel a kind of faint pressure. This was the sign of the great disparity between realms. Xiao Yin stepped into the heaven realm? Tang Xiaoxi asked with a light smile. Yes, Qin Yin smiled, raised her left hand and lightly exhaled. This time, what appeared was not true qi but pure white do qi. Once one stepped into the heaven realm, the aura in one's body would automatically change from true qi to do qi. This was a qualitative leap. In an instant, Qin Yin was extraordinarily happy. Her beautiful eyes looked deeply at Lin Muyu. Thank you very much. Lin Muyu cupped his fists and smiled. Serving your highness is my duty. After all, as a member of the temple, he was originally loyal to the imperial family. Although the little princess' attitude towards him was extremely good, Lin Muyu still maintained propriety. There was a difference in identity and status. Once he got carried away, then it might bring about a fatal disaster. This was also one of Lin Muyu's great characteristics. He could maintain wisdom and calmness at any time. Otherwise, it might be difficult for him to ascend to the martial god's throne in conquest. Your Highness, have you refined the stone beast skill? Qin Lei asked at the side. Yes. Qin Yi nodded lightly, then summoned the God-binding chain's martial soul. She lightly exhaled her Do Qi and immediately, stone scales appeared around the golden chains of the God-binding chains. This was a defensive skill. It could protect herself from harm. Okay, Qin Lei clapped his hands and said with a smile, this time we did not come to the Dragon Forest in vain. Your Highness Yin, since you have already completed your training, why don't we return to Lanyan City as soon as possible? The Dragon Forest is too dangerous. Moreover, Commander Feng Jixing should still be at the edge of the Dragon Forest waiting for us to return. We have been out for a bit too long. However, Qin Yin frowned slightly, shook her head and said, no, my real purpose for coming out this time is to help you find the dragon's tomb. If Brother Qin Lei is in a hurry, then go back first. Qin Lei was given the cold shoulder and couldn't help but stare blankly, but he didn't take it to heart. He smiled and said, all right then, I promise to listen to you. This time I will listen to you. Let's go find the dragon's tomb together. Yes, that's more like it. Qin Yin's anger turned into joy. The few of them rested for a bit and recovered their true qi and physical strength before continuing on their journey. Before dusk, they found a suitable place to rest in the Dragon Forest. It was a very dry cave, and the weeds in the cave were very dry. Furthermore, the original owner was a 1,200-year-old spiritual bear, which was killed by Qin Lei with one slash. The spirit stone was taken away by Lin Muyu. A spirit stone that was over 1,000 years old was very good to be used to forge weapons, so it shouldn't be wasted. Jin Xiaotang of the Imperial Merchant Guild probably still didn't know that he was good at forging weapons. Otherwise, it would have definitely caused a ruckus again. The Imperial Merchant Guild didn't lack anything, the only thing it lacked was high-grade weapons. Those nobles, officials, and sons of rich families would wait in the Merchant Guild every day, waiting for someone who lacked money to auction a suitable weapon. Actually, over there, spirit-grade weapons were already very popular, and mysterious-grade weapons were even more popular. If he could forge a saint-grade weapon, perhaps the entire Imperial Merchant Guild would change. Qin Lei took a blanket from the back of the horse, and after laying it on the ground, he said, Your Highness, it's very tough for us in the wilderness, so this is the only way. You and Princess She can sleep here tonight. You and I can sleep on the hay outside. Qin Yin smiled faintly, thank you for your hard work, Brother Qin Lei. Oh right, where's you? He's outside, I don't know what he's doing. Qin Yin lifted the hem of her skirt and walked out of the cave lightly, only to see Lin Muyu holding the burning prairie sword and quietly inspecting the terrain outside. His brows were tightly knitted, and the white robe behind him swayed slightly in the wind. He was very handsome. In an instant, Qin Yin's heart fluttered, and her heartbeat seemed to quicken. Although Feng Jixing, Chu Huaying, and the others were all handsome men, this Lin Muyu in front of her seemed to have an extra special temperament compared to them. Oh. What am I thinking? Qin Yin stamped her little boots and vented her anger at herself, feeling both ashamed and angry. This princess was really arrogant and pampered. Lin Muyu raised her head and saw Qin Yin standing under the mountain rock with a red face. She couldn't help but ask with a smile, Your Highness, what's wrong? Qin Yin was stunned, and her face became even redder. Nothing. You've been patrolling outside for so long, what are you inspecting? Oh, I suspect that there's a spirit beast that's older, and it's of the fire attribute. Why do you say that? When I was training in the Seven Stars Forest with Chu and Xiaoxi, we also encountered this kind of terrain. Not a single blade of grass grew, and everything was withered. This means that there's a fire attribute spirit beast living nearby, and it's not young. Qin Yin was stunned. Then why is the spiritual bear that we just killed still living here? Logically speaking, that fire-type spirit beast should have swallowed the spiritual bear long ago. That's hard to say. The corners of Lin Muyu's mouth curled up, and she smiled. Perhaps that fire attribute spirit beast is just raising the spiritual bear like a pig? I see. Then what should we do? Don't worry, I'll be careful. If this spirit beast really comes to find trouble with us, we'll just kill it. It just so happens that Xiaoxi is about to step into the third heaven of the earth realm, and she needs a suitable beast spirit of the fire attribute spirit beast. If it dares to come, I'll be more than happy. Late at night, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were sleeping in each other's arms. The two of them were exhausted after a day of traveling. Qin Lei was holding the thunder split blade, and his tiger eyes were wide open as he looked at the rock at the top of the cave, standing guard 3 meters away from the two girls. As the commander of the Imperial Army, Qin Lei's greatest responsibility was to protect the heir to the empire. However, when Qin Lei turned around to look, his gaze fell upon Qin Yin's bright and clean face, and there seemed to be another kind of indescribable emotion in his eyes. He sighed, and the hand that was holding the thunder split blade tightened a little. Outside the cave, a bonfire swayed in the night wind. The late autumn night was already very cold, especially after the autumn rain, as if it was going to be winter soon. Lin Muyu held the burning prairie sword in her arms, and looked at the swaying light of the fire, her clear eyes filled with melancholy. He wondered how his father was doing. Was his old man still in good health? At the thought of this, Lin Muyu's eyes instantly became moist. She raised her head to look at the sky, and murmured, "Father, brother, are you both well now? I miss you both, but I can't go back now. Brother, you must take good care of father, don't let him work so hard anymore. When I'm not here. Brother, you have to shoulder the entire Long Xian group." At this moment, a soft hissing sound was suddenly heard from afar, and it was accompanied by a scorching heat. It's finally here. As the owner of this area, it was finally time to hunt Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and the other uninvited guests. Lin Muyu called out softly, "Brother Qin Lei, wake up His Highness and Xiaoxi, our guests are here." Qin Lei was startled, and turned around to look, only to find that Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi had both woken up, and were looking at him with their beautiful eyes. "Is that fire spiritual beast here?" Tang Xiaoxi was slightly excited. "You're tuning into the Carefree Valley YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.